The universe's most advanced weapons fear Earth's simple tools. This truth dawns on Commander Terra as she stares at the holographic display aboard the Tarkalian warship, Stalwart Conqueror. Her mandibles click in disbelief as she watches the footage of 3 state-of-the-art Tarkalian scout ships disintegrate in Earth's orbit, torn apart by primitive kinetic weapons. An urgent transmission cuts through the tense silence of the bridge. "Commander, we've lost contact with our scout ships," a communications officer reports, his voice trembling. "Earth's defenses. They've destroyed them." Terra's compound eyes widen as she processes the implications. The scout ships, equipped with energy shields designed to repel the most sophisticated energy weapons in the galaxy, have been obliterated by simple projectiles. How could this backwater planet, barely a blip on the galactic radar, possess such effective countermeasures? On the Lunar Defense Station, U.S., Space Force Officer Dylan Reed pumps his fist in triumph. His quick thinking and unorthodox approach have paid off. "Direct hits confirmed," he announces to his team. "The railguns and brilliant pebbles did their job. Those alien bastards never saw it coming." Reed's decision to use modified Cold War-era brilliant pebbles kinetic kill vehicles alongside modern railguns had been a gamble. But faced with the sudden appearance of advanced alien ships, he'd reasoned that sometimes the old ways were best. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Back on the Stalwart Conqueror, Commander Terra convenes an emergency war council. Her senior officers gather around a holodeck, their faces a mix of shock and concern as they review the engagement footage. "How did they detect us?" demands the head of stealth operations. "Our cloaking technology is unparalleled." A tactical analyst points to a section of the hologram. It appears they use an outdated satellite network. The very simplicity of the system rendered our countermeasures ineffective. As the implications sink in, a heated debate erupts among the officers. Some argue for an immediate, overwhelming assault to crush Earth's defenses. Others counsel caution, wary of underestimating the humans again. Commander Terra silences them with a sharp gesture. "We cannot rush into this," she declares. "These humans have proven more resourceful than our intelligence suggested. We must reevaluate our entire strategy." Meanwhile, on Earth, news of the thwarted alien attack spreads like wildfire. The United Nations Security Council convenes an emergency session, with major powers setting aside their differences in the face of this unprecedented threat. "We must pool our resources," the U.S. representative urges. "Reactivate every mothballed weapons system we have. If simple kinetics can take down their ships, we need to produce as many as we can, as quickly as we can." Agreement is swift and unanimous. Within hours, factories worldwide begin retooling to mass-produce projectile-based space weapons. The International Space Station, once a symbol of peaceful cooperation, is hastily retrofitted with makeshift armaments, transforming into humanity's first armed outpost in space. As Earth mobilizes, Commander Terra issues orders for a full retreat of the Tarkalian fleet. "Fall back to a safe distance," she commands. "We need to reassess everything we thought we knew about this planet and its inhabitants." The Tarkalian ships vanish into the depths of space, leaving Earth to an uneasy victory. But both sides know this is only the beginning. The battle for Earth has just begun, and humanity's simple tools have proven to be the most feared weapons in the universe. As the Tarkalian ships retreated into the depths of space, Earth's leaders knew their reprieve would be short-lived. The battle for humanity's survival had only just begun. In the following weeks, Commander Terra found herself summoned before the Tarkalian High Command. The holographic chamber hummed with tension as she stood before the imposing figures of her superiors. "Commander," the High Admiral's voice boomed, "your failure to anticipate Earth's defenses is unacceptable. However, we believe you can redeem yourself." Tara's antennae twitched nervously. "How may I serve, High Admiral?" "You will lead Operation Technological Downgrade. We're adapting to the humans' primitive yet effective methods." The High Admiral's words left Tara speechless. Retrofitting their advanced ships with projectile weapons seemed counterintuitive, but she dared not question the order. Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel Dillon Reed strode through the bustling corridors of the newly established Unconventional Space Warfare Division. Technicians and engineers scrambled around him, repurposing old technology for the looming threat. "Status report," Reed barked as he entered the control room. A young lieutenant snapped to attention. "Sir, the SDI system adaptation is proceeding ahead of schedule. We've successfully deployed the first wave of brilliant pebbles in low Earth orbit." Reed nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Good. Those Cold War relics might just save us all." Across the globe, in a United Nations conference room, Dr. Marcus Allen stood before the Space Defense Council. His hands moved animatedly as he explained his audacious plan. "Ladies and gentlemen, Project Slingshot will transform our communications infrastructure into a weapon system. Each satellite will become a magnetic accelerator, capable of launching dense projectiles at incredible velocities." The room erupted in murmurs of disbelief and excitement. Secretary General Akira Tanaka leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "And you're certain this can be implemented quickly?" Allen nodded confidently. "With global cooperation, we can have the system operational within months." As Earth mobilized, Commander Tara's experimental task force approached the outer reaches of the solar system. Her compound eyes scanned the bridge of her flagship, now stripped of its energy weapons and dripping with unfamiliar railguns and missile launchers. "Commander," her tactical officer called out, "we're detecting a swarm of small objects near Jupiter." Tara's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated no human presence this far out." She studied the sensor readouts, her mind racing. This unknown monitoring network complicated their mission significantly. In low Earth orbit, the International Space Station had undergone a startling transformation. Commander John Martinez floated through the cramped corridors, now lined with hastily installed weapon systems. "How's that particle beam coming along, Dr. Yakov?" Martinez called out to a harried-looking scientist. The Russian astrophysicist glanced up from a tangle of wires. "Another day, Commander. We're repurposing the station's solar arrays to power it." Martinez nodded, marveling at how quickly their scientific outpost had become a battle station. Back on Earth, in a dimly lit room filled with humming servers, a group of civilian hackers huddled around computer screens. Their leader, known only as Cypherwolf, let out a triumphant whoop. I've cracked part of their communication protocols." The team crowded around, eyes wide as alien transmissions scrolled across the screen. Cypherwolf's fingers flew over the keyboard, decoding the messages. "They're confused," he muttered. "They can't understand how our primitive tech is so effective. This is gold. We need to get this to Colonel Reed immediately." As Cypherwolf's team worked to relay their findings, Commander Tara's task force edged closer to the inner solar system. On the bridge of her flagship, she studied the holographic display of Earth's defenses, trying to anticipate their next move. "Prepare all weapons," she ordered, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "We'll test the effectiveness of these. Primitive armaments against the humans' defenses." The tension on the bridge was palpable as the Tarkalian ships moved into position. Earth's ingenious adaptation of simple technology was about to face its first true test against the aliens' own attempt at technological regression. As the distance closed, both sides knew that the outcome of this confrontation would shape the course of the conflict. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with Earth's cleverly repurposed primitive weapons standing as the last line of defense against the Tarkalian threat. As Commander Terra's task force edged closer to the inner solar system, Earth's defenses sprang into action with startling efficiency. The swarm of small objects near Jupiter, initially dismissed as space debris, revealed their true nature as humanity's deep space monitoring network. Aboard the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Dylan Reed's eyes widened as data from the network flooded his screens. "They're coming," he muttered, his fingers flying across the control panel. "Activate brilliant pebbles. Now!" Within moments, thousands of kinetic kill vehicles burst from their orbital housings, spreading out to form a protective web around Earth. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, a shimmering lattice of destructive potential. On the bridge of her flagship, Commander Terra observed the sensor readings with growing unease. "What are those?" she demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly. Her tactical officer zoomed in on the readings. "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be some form of defensive network, but our systems can't classify them." Terra's compound eyes narrowed. "Proceed with caution. These humans have proven unpredictable." As the Tarkalian task force passed Neptune's orbit, they encountered their first true test. A field of crudely constructed space mines, left behind by a hastily assembled human mining vessel, lay in their path. Evasive maneuvers. Terra barked, but it was too late. Two of her ships struck the mines, their hulls breaching from the simple explosive devices their advanced sensors had failed to detect. "Damage report," she demanded, her voice tight with frustration. "Hull breaches on the Resolute and Dauntless, Commander," her second-in-command reported. "They're venting atmosphere, but remain operational." Terra clicked her mandibles in agitation. How had their intelligence failed so spectacularly? Meanwhile, on Earth, the United Nations Space Defense Council convened an emergency session. General Zhang Wei, his weathered face illuminated by holographic displays, addressed the assembled leaders. "We must use our knowledge of the solar system against them," he urged, his voice carrying the weight of decades of military experience. "I propose we lure them into a trap, using the gravitational fields they clearly don't understand." The council chamber erupted in a flurry of discussion. After a tense debate, agreement was reached. "Make it happen, General," the Secretary-General ordered. As Earth's leaders planned their strategy, the International Space Station underwent its final transformation from scientific outpost to battle station. Commander John Martinez floated through the cramped corridors, now overflowing with hastily installed weapon systems. "Status on those reflective panels?" He called out to his team. "Deployment complete, sir." A young engineer responded. "They're ready to create false sensor readings for the alien fleet." Martinez nodded grimly. "Let's hope it's enough to confuse them." In the asteroid belt, Commander Terra's task force encountered unexpected difficulties. The debris field proved far more treacherous than their simulations had indicated, with constant barrages of small rocks and dust straining their energy shields. "This is impossible," Terra growled, watching as another piece of space rock glanced off their bow. "How do the humans navigate this chaos?" As if in answer to her question, a small, agile Earth vessel darted through the asteroid field, effortlessly weaving between the rocky obstacles. Terra watched in disbelief as it disappeared into the distance, leaving her lumbering fleet in its wake. On Earth, in a dimly lit room filled with humming servers, Cypherwolf and his team of hackers worked feverishly. Streams of alien code scrolled across their screens as they probed the damaged Tarkalian ship systems. "I'm in," Cypherwolf exclaimed, his fingers a blur on the keyboard. "Downloading their weapons data now." Within minutes, the crucial information was relayed to Colonel Reed at the Lunar Command Center. Reed's face lit up as he reviewed the data. "This changes everything," he murmured, immediately setting to work adjusting Earth's defenses. As the Tarkalian fleet approached Mars, Earth unveiled its secret weapon, a massive electromagnetic pulse generator, disguised as a derelict satellite, activated with a brilliant flash of energy. On the bridge of her flagship, Commander Terra watched in horror as two more of her ships suddenly went dark, their systems temporarily disabled by the pulse. "Status report," she barked, her composure slipping. "The Indomitable and Relentless are non-responsive, Commander," her tactical officer reported. "All systems are offline." Terra's mandibles clicked rapidly as she assessed her dwindling options. With only two fully operational vessels remaining, she faced a critical decision. "We push forward," she declared, her voice steely with willpower. "We must breach their inner defenses and gather intelligence before retreating." As the remnants of the Tarkalian task force approached the orbit of Earth's moon, they encountered the full might of humanity's jury-rigged defense systems. The space around Earth became a deadly field of high-velocity objects, challenging even the most skilled Tarkalian pilots. "Evasive maneuvers," Terra ordered, her eyes darting across the tactical display. "Deploy all countermeasures." But the simple, brutal efficiency of Earth's weapons proved difficult to counter. The brilliant Pebbles kinetic kill vehicles swarmed the Tarkalian ships, their erratic trajectories confounding the aliens' targeting systems. Simultaneously, Project Slingshot activated. Earth's satellite network unleashed a barrage of dense projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds by makeshift magnetic launchers. From his position in the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Reed watched the battle unfold with a mix of awe and trepidation. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as their innovative use of simple technology clashed with the might of an advanced alien civilization. As the Tarkalian ships struggled against the relentless assault, it became clear that this conflict would test the limits of both human ingenuity and Tarkalian adaptability. The outcome of this engagement would shape the course of the war, and perhaps the future of both species. Species and Earth's defenders. As the battle raged in Earth's orbit, Commander Terra's remaining two Tarkalian ships found themselves caught in a maelstrom of human ingenuity. The constant barrage of kinetic kill vehicles from the brilliant Pebbles system and the high-velocity projectiles launched by Project Slingshot forced the alien vessels into a desperate dance of evasion. Terra's compound eyes darted across the tactical display, her mandibles clicking rapidly as she assessed the situation. The humans' primitive weapons were proving far more effective than she had ever imagined possible. Her ship's energy shields flickered and strained under the relentless assault, and she knew a decision had to be made. "Sub-Commander Krell," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Take your ship and engage their primary defenses. Draw their fire. I'll attempt to breach their inner perimeter." "Understood, Commander," Krell responded, his own mandibles twitching with a mix of anticipation and dread. As Krell's ship surged forward, Terra piloted her vessel in a daring maneuver. Using the moon's gravitational field, she slingshot her ship towards Earth, the sudden acceleration pressing her and her crew into their seats. The ship's hull groaned under the stress, but held. On the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Dylan Reed's eyes widened as he watched the tactical display. "They're splitting up," he announced, his voice tense. "One's making a run for it. They're using the moon's gravity to accelerate." Reed's fingers flew across the control panel, recalibrating Earth's defenses. "Activate Contingency Plan Delta," he ordered. "Get those modified Raptors in the air, now." In the Mojave Desert, a secret hangar burst open. A squadron of F-22 Raptors, their sleek frames modified with experimental exoatmospheric engines, roared to life. The pilots, Earth's finest, strapped themselves in, their faces set with perseverance as they prepared to meet the alien threat head-on. As Terra's ship breached Earth's upper atmosphere, alarms blared across her bridge. The ship systems, already strained from the high-G maneuver, began to malfunction as they encountered unexpected interference from Earth's electromagnetic field. "Status report," Terra demanded, her normally composed demeanor slipping. "Multiple systems failing, Commander," her tactical officer responded, mandibles clicking frantically. "Our sensors are being scrambled by some kind of electromagnetic interference." We're flying blind. On Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen stood in a control room, surrounded by banks of computers and nervous technicians. "Activate the laser array," he ordered, his voice firm. "Let's see how their shields handle this." Across the globe, massive laser arrays, originally designed for satellite communication, swiveled towards the sky. Beams of concentrated energy lanced upward, striking Terra's already damaged ship with pinpoint accuracy. In orbit, the diversionary battle took a tragic turn. Sub-Commander Krell's ship, overwhelmed by Earth's relentless defenses, suffered a catastrophic reactor breach. The resulting explosion sent a deadly cloud of debris hurtling in all directions, threatening both human and Tarkalian forces alike. Colonel Reed, watching the disaster unfold, made a split-second decision. "Recalibrate Brilliant Pebbles," he ordered. "Intercept that debris field before it takes out our own satellites." As the kinetic kill vehicles redirected to deal with the new threat, Terra's damaged ship slipped further into Earth's atmosphere. The modified F-22 Raptors, screaming into the upper atmosphere, locked onto their target. "Bogey at 12 o'clock, the lead pilot announced, his voice crackling over the radio. "Engaging now." The dogfight that ensued was unlike anything in human history. The massive Tarkalian ship, despite its advanced technology, found itself outmaneuvered by the smaller, more agile human fighters. Terra's mandibles clicked in frustration as she tried to shake off her pursuers, her ship's systems failing one by one. In a dimly lit room filled with humming servers, Cypherwolf and his team of hackers worked furiously. Streams of alien code flowed across their screens as they probed the damaged Tarkalian ship systems. "I found a backdoor in their comms," Cypherwolf exclaimed, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Initiating shutdown sequence now." As the cyber attack hit, Terra watched in horror as her ship's remaining defensive systems went dark. With no other options left, she made the decision to attempt an emergency landing. Aiming for a remote area in the Siberian wilderness, she hoped to avoid immediate capture and possibly salvage some of the crucial intelligence gathered during their brief incursion. The massive alien ship disappeared from radar as it descended into the vast Siberian taiga, leaving a trail of smoke and debris in its wake. Colonel Reed, watching the ship vanish from his screens, immediately sprang into action. "Get me a joint Special Forces team," he barked into his comm unit. "I want boots on the ground at that crash site SP." As a hypersonic transport aircraft launched from a secret base, carrying a team of elite soldiers from various nations, the battle in orbit began to wind down. Earth's forces had emerged victorious, but at a significant cost. The debris field from Krell's destroyed ship continued to pose a threat to satellites and the International Space Station, requiring immediate attention. In the vast Siberian wilderness, Commander Terra dragged herself from the smoking wreckage of her ship. Her compound eyes scanned the alien landscape, taking in the dense forest and harsh terrain. In the distance, she could hear the faint sound of approaching aircraft. The race to secure the crash site, and with it, the fate of two civilizations had begun. As the wreckage of her ship smoldered behind her, Commander Terra limped into the dense Siberian forest, her alien physiology struggling to adapt to Earth's harsh environment. Meanwhile, a hypersonic transport screamed across the sky, carrying Major Jack Harper and his Joint Special Forces team. The aircraft touched down in a clearing several kilometers from the crash site, its engines barely cooling before the elite soldiers disembarked. Major Harper, a weathered U.S. Army Ranger with piercing blue eyes, gathered his team. "Listen up," he barked, his breath visible in the frigid air. "We're dealing with unknown territory and an alien threat. Stay sharp and stick to your training." As they approached the crash site, their high-tech equipment began to malfunction. Sergeant Ivan Petrov, a burly Russian Spetsnaz operative, tapped his malfunctioning GPS unit. "Major, we've got a problem. Everything's going haywire." Harper nodded grimly, The ship must be emitting some kind of electromagnetic field. We'll have to do this the old-fashioned way. He pulled out a compass and a paper map. Petrov, set up a perimeter. Lieutenant Allen, start searching for survivors. I'll lead the approach to the ship. The teams dispersed, moving cautiously through the dense underbrush. Lieutenant Wei Allen, allied Chinese PLA Special Forces officer, led her group in a wide sweep around the crash site. The acrid smell of burnt alien alloys filled the air, making their eyes water. "Look here," one of Allen's team members called out, pointing to a strange, viscous substance on a nearby tree trunk. Allen examined it closely, her brow furrowed. This could be Tarkalian blood. Mark the location and keep moving. At the crash site, Major Harper's team approached the twisted wreckage of the Tarkalian ship. The hull had cracked open like an egg, spilling its otherworldly contents across the forest floor. As they drew closer, a wave of dizziness washed over them. "Gas masks on," Harper ordered, pulling his own into place. "Something in the air isn't right." Inside the ship, they found a scene of chaos. Alien technology, now rendered useless by the crash and the cold, littered the floor. Harper's team worked quickly, gathering what they could salvage. "Sir, look at this," a young soldier called out, holding up a small device that pulsed with a faint light. Harper took it, turning it over in his hands. "Good find, Johnson. This could be a communication device. Bag it and tag it." As night fell, the temperature dropped dramatically. The Special Forces team huddled around makeshift heaters, their breaths forming clouds in the frigid air. Lieutenant Allen approached Major Harper, her face grave. "Sir, we've found traces of what we believe to be Tarkalian blood, but no sign of the commander herself," she reported. "This forest is vast, and she could be anywhere." Harper nodded, his mind racing. "We need to think like our quarry. If I were an alien commander stranded on a hostile planet, what would be my next move?" As if in answer to his question, a crackle of static erupted from the salvaged communication device. The soldiers tensed, hands moving to their weapons. Harper held up a hand, signaling for silence. He leaned in close, straining to make out the garbled transmission. In the depths of the Siberian taiga, Commander Terra crouched behind a fallen log, her mandibles clicking in frustration. The primitive communication device she had salvaged from her ship sputtered and sparked in her hands. The electromagnetic interference from the crash site, combined with Earth's unfamiliar atmospheric conditions, made it nearly impossible to send a clear signal. Terra's compound eyes scanned the dark forest around her. Her cloaking device flickered erratically, alternating between concealment and visibility. She could hear the distant sounds of the human search party, growing closer with each passing moment. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine cut through the air, causing Terra to double over in pain. The sound seemed to resonate with her very being, sending waves of agony through her alien nervous system. She realized with dawning horror that the humans had discovered a weakness in Tarkalian physiology. Back at the search team's makeshift base camp, Dr. Samantha Lee's voice crackled over the satellite phone. "Major Harper, our analysis shows that Tarkalian physiology is highly sensitive to certain sound frequencies common in Earth's natural environment. We're sending you the specs for a sonic device that should help flush out the alien commander." Harper's team worked quickly, jury-rigging their equipment to emit the specific frequencies. As they spread out into the forest, the night air filled with an eerie, pulsating sound. Commander Terra stumbled through the underbrush, her usual grace and poise abandoned in her desperate flight from the debilitating noise. She could sense the human soldiers closing in, their crude but effective tactics driving her into a corner. As dawn broke over the Siberian wilderness, Major Harper's team converged on a small clearing. There, they found Commander Terra, her alien form a stark contrast to the earth forest around her. The Tarkalian leader stood tall, despite her injuries and exhaustion, her compound eyes reflecting the rising sun. Harper raised his hand, signaling his team to hold their positions. He took a step forward, his weapon lowered but ready. "Commander Terra," he called out, his voice firm but not hostile. "In the name of Earth's united forces, I'm placing you under custody." Terra's mandibles clicked rapidly, her alien features unreadable to human eyes. She glanced at the device in her hand, then back at the human soldiers surrounding her. In that moment, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, with the next move yet to be made. The alien commander's compound eyes darted between the human soldiers and the device in her hand, her mandibles clicking rapidly as she processed her options. In that moment of tense silence, Major Harper activated the sonic device. A low, pulsating hum filled the air, causing Commander Terra to stumble. Her usual grace abandoned her as she clutched at her head, her alien physiology reacting violently to the carefully calibrated frequencies. "Now!" Harper barked, and his team surged forward. Terra, fighting through the disorienting effects of the sound, fumbled with a small spherical object she'd pulled from her uniform. With a desperate click, she activated it, throwing it towards the advancing humans. The device hit the ground and emitted a blinding flash. Harper and his team braced for the worst, expecting to be incapacitated. Instead, they felt a surge of energy course through their bodies. Muscles tensed, hearts raced, and senses sharpened to an almost painful degree. Sergeant Ivan Petrov, his body thrumming with unexpected power, let out a roar and charged through the underbrush. He collided with Commander Terra, the impact sending them both tumbling to the forest floor. The Tarkalian's superior strength nearly overcame Petrov, but the adrenaline surge from her own weapon gave him an edge. Harper joined the fray, grappling with Terra's flailing limbs. "Stand down!" he shouted, struggling to pin her arms. The alien commander's exoskeleton was slick and unyielding, making it difficult to maintain a grip. Lieutenant Wei Allen circled the melee, her weapon trained on the writhing figures. "Sir, I don't have a clear shot." With a final surge of strength, Harper and Petrov managed to subdue Commander Terra. They secured her limbs with reinforced restraints designed to hold against her alien physiology. "Area secure," Harper panted, his enhanced adrenaline already beginning to fade. "Rodriguez, check for any active communications devices. Allen, sweep the perimeter. I want to make sure there are no nasty surprises waiting for us." Technician Sarah Rodriguez approached the downed commander, her eyes scanning for any sign of technology. She spotted a small device partially concealed in Terra's uniform and carefully removed it. "Sir, I've got something," Rodriguez called out, already working to disassemble the alien communication device. "It looks like she was trying to send a distress signal. I'll need to analyze it further, but I think I can prevent any outgoing transmissions." Harper nodded, then turned his attention to their captive. Commander Terra's compound eyes stared back at him, unreadable. He activated the sonic device again, keeping it at a low level, enough to disorient but not incapacitate. "Commander Terra," Harper began, his voice firm, "I have some questions for you, and I strongly suggest you cooperate." The Tarkalian's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound Harper's team had come to recognize as a sign of agitation. When she spoke, her voice was a mix of clicks and guttural sounds, translated through a device on her uniform. "Your primitive tactics." "Impressive," she managed, her words halting as she fought against the effects of the sound. "But you cannot hope to stand against the might of the Tarkalian fleet." Harper leaned in closer. "Where is your fleet now, Commander? What are their plans?" Terra's resistance was admirable, but the combination of the sonic assault and her own exhaustion began to take its toll. Fragments of information slipped out, fleet positions, technological weaknesses, command structures. As Rodriguez worked on the communication device and Harper continued his interrogation, Lieutenant Allen's voice crackled over the radio. "Sir, we got incoming. Multiple objects entering the atmosphere." Harper's blood ran cold. He turned to Rodriguez, who was already pale with realization. "The distress signal," she said. "Part of it must have gotten through." Before Harper could respond, his earpiece buzzed with an incoming transmission. Colonel Dillon Reed's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Major, we're picking up a massive Tarkalian fleet entering Earth's atmosphere. You need to get out of there now. Whatever intel you've gathered could be our only hope." "Roger that, Colonel," Harper replied, already signaling his team to prepare for immediate evac. "We're on our way with a high-value prisoner and recovered tech." The team moved with practiced efficiency, securing Commander Terra and gathering what they could from the crash site. As they boarded their hypersonic transport, the sky above the Siberian wilderness began to glow with the fiery trails of incoming Tarkalian ships. Harper strapped himself in next to the restrained Commander Terra, his mind racing with the implications of what was to come. As the transport lifted off, he could see the first waves of the Tarkalian invasion force breaking through the clouds. "This is Major Harper to all Earth Defense Forces," he radioed, watching the alien armada descend. "We are inbound with critical intelligence. Prepare for immediate action. The Tarkalians are here." The hypersonic transport accelerated, racing against time as Earth's forces scrambled to meet the impending threat. In orbit, the crew of the International Space Station turned their gaze from the shimmering debris field to the approaching Tarkalian fleet. On the lunar surface, Colonel Reed began coordinating Earth's defenses, knowing that the fate of humanity now rested on their ability to outsmart a technologically superior foe. As Major Harper's transport streaked across the sky, the largest interstellar conflict in Earth's history was about to begin. The ingenuity and resourcefulness of humanity were about to be tested on a scale never before imagined, with the entire planet hanging in the balance. As Major Harper's transport streaked across the sky, the largest interstellar conflict in Earth's history erupted around them. The hypersonic craft vibrated with the turbulence of countless Tarkalian ships entering the atmosphere, their fiery trails painting the heavens in a terrifying display of alien might. Harper glanced at the restrained Commander Terra, her compound eyes reflecting the chaos unfolding outside the viewports. He tapped his comm link. "This is Major Harper to Lunar Command. We're inbound with the prisoner and critical intel. ETA 20 minutes. Colonel Reed's voice crackled through the speaker, tense but controlled. "Copy that, Major. We're tracking Admiral Zorn's fleet. Over 100 warships entering the atmosphere at multiple points. It's begun." The transport banked sharply, narrowly avoiding a plummeting Tarkalian scout ship. Harper steadied himself, then turned to Technician Rodriguez. "What have you got from that communication device?" Rodriguez's fingers flew over a portable terminal. "Sir, I've isolated a vulnerability in their navigation systems. They're using quantum algorithms that are susceptible to electromagnetic interference." Harper's eyes widened. "Relay that to Colonel Reed immediately." As Rodriguez transmitted the data, the transport's pilot called out, "Sir, we've got company. 2 Tarkalian fighters on R6. Harper gripped his seat as the transport dove, skimming the tops of snow-covered pines. The alien fighters screamed overhead, their energy weapons scorching the forest below. Suddenly, a massive electromagnetic pulse swept across the sky. The pursuing Tarkalian ships wobbled, their sleek forms suddenly ungainly as their navigation systems failed. One spiraled into a mountainside, exploding in a brilliant fireball. The other careened off course, disappearing into the clouds. "What the hell was that?" Harper demanded. "Earth's improvised electromagnetic defense system, sir," Rodriguez replied, her eyes glued to her terminal. "General Zhongwei just activated it globally. It's wreaking havoc on the Tarkalian fleet." As they approached the Rocky Mountain facility, Harper watched in awe as the sky lit up with the chaos of battle. Tarkalian ships collided with each other, their once precise formations dissolving into disarray. On the ground, flashes of light marked the activation of hastily prepared human defenses. The transport touched down on a concealed landing pad. Armed guards swarmed the craft as Harper and his team disembarked with their alien prisoner. Commander Terra stumbled, still disoriented from the sonic weapons and the unfamiliar gravity. "Get her to interrogation," Harper ordered. "And I want a direct link to Colonel Reed. We need to coordinate our next move." Inside the facility's command center, Harper watched as holographic displays showed the battle raging across the globe. In New York, the Statue of Liberty's torch unleashed a massive EMP blast, downing a Tarkalian dropship over Manhattan. Tokyo's skyline bristled with repurposed construction cranes, hurling chunks of concrete at low-flying alien vessels. Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main screen. "Major, we've got a situation. The International Space Station is engaging Tarkalian forces in orbit, but they've spotted something big coming from behind the moon. We think it's Zorn's secret weapon." Harper felt a chill run down his spine. "How big are we talking?" "3 times the size of their largest ships," Reed replied grimly. "Our defenses might not be enough against something like that." Alarms blared throughout the facility. A technician called out, "Sir, we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the Tarkalian Doomsday device. It's preparing to fire." Harper's mind raced. "Colonel, what about the ultrasonic wave generators Dr. Allen was working on? Are they online?" Reed nodded. "Just came online a few minutes ago. We're seeing microscopic fractures forming in the alien ship's hulls, but it might not be enough to stop that behemoth in time." "Then we need to buy time," Harper said, his mind focused. "What about that experimental ship we've been developing? The XS-1? Reed's eyes widened. "The shooting star? It's not fully tested, Harper. It's a hell of a risk." "We're out of options, sir," Harper replied. "We need to take that doomsday weapon out before it can fire." After a moment's hesitation, Reed nodded. "Agreed. I'm authorizing the launch now. Major Sarah Hawkins will pilot." As alarms continued to blare, Harper turned back to the holographic displays. The massive Tarkalian vessel loomed ever closer, its planet-cracking weapon preparing to fire. On another screen, he watched as the sleek form of the XS, one shooting star, launched from its hidden base in the Atacama Desert, streaking towards the alien doomsday device. Major Sarah Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. "This is Shooting Star, commencing approach to target. Wish me luck, gentlemen." Harper watched as the experimental craft, a fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Tarkalian technology, accelerated towards its impossibly large foe. The fate of Earth now rested on the shoulders of one pilot and her untested ship. As Hawkins maneuvered through the debris-filled orbital space, Harper turned his attention back to the terrestrial battle. The Tarkalian invasion fleet, though in disarray, continued to press their attack. Earth's forces fought back with everything they had, from EMP cannons to repurposed civilian infrastructure. In the interrogation room below, Commander Terra's debriefing continued, each revelation potentially tipping the scales in humanity's favor. Harper knew that every piece of information, every moment bought, could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. The massive Tarkalian doomsday weapon continued its ominous approach, its hull beginning to show signs of the ultrasonic assault, but still largely intact. As Major Hawkins' shooting star closed in on its target, Harper and the rest of Earth's defenders could only watch and wait, knowing that the next few moments would determine the fate of their entire species. The tension in the command center was palpable as all eyes turned to the main view screen, tracking the progress of the XS-1 shooting star as it raced towards Admiral Zorn's colossal doomsday weapon. Major Sarah Hawkins' voice crackled through the comm system, her tone steady despite the enormity of her task. Shooting star approaching target. ETA 3 minutes. Harper watched the readouts, his fingers drumming against the console. The ultrasonic wave generators were beginning to show more pronounced effects on the Tarkalian fleet. Fissures appeared on the hulls of several ships, visible even from the ground-based cameras. Suddenly, an urgent transmission came through from the interrogation room. "Major Harper, this is Lieutenant Ramirez. We've got critical information from the prisoner." Harper's pulse quickened. "Go ahead, Lieutenant." "Sir, Commander Terra revealed a weakness in the Doomsday weapon. It has a complex startup sequence and generates massive heat during charging. There's a vulnerable exhaust port that expels this excess heat." Harper immediately relayed this information to Colonel Reed on the lunar base, who patched it through to Major Hawkins. "Copy that." Hawkins responded, her voice tight with concentration. "I see it. The hull is glowing red near the aft section. Adjusting approach vector now." As Hawkins maneuvered the experimental craft towards its target, chaos erupted on the main view screen. Admiral Zorn, clearly frustrated by Earth's unexpected resistance, had ordered his fleet to concentrate fire on power infrastructure. "Sir," a technician called out, "we're losing power nodes across the globe. The electromagnetic interference is weakening." Harper gritted his teeth. "Redirect all available resources to protect those power stations. We can't lose our advantage now." Reports flooded in from around the world. In the Ural Mountains, Harper's own Special Forces team engaged in a fierce firefight to defend a critical power station. They used their knowledge of Tarkalian weaknesses, setting up sonic traps and improvising weapons from industrial equipment. Meanwhile, in orbit, the International Space Station faced a new threat. Commander John Martinez's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of metal striking metal. "This is Martinez. We've got boarders. Multiple Tarkalian pods have latched onto the station. We're engaging in close-quarters combat." The crew of the ISS, armed with makeshift weapons cobbled together from tools and scientific equipment, fought desperately to repel the alien invaders in the confined spaces of the station. Back in the command center, Dr. Marcus Allen burst in, his eyes wild with excitement. "I've done it! I've fine-tuned the ultrasonic frequency to target specific alloys in their ship construction. We can maximize the effectiveness of our generators." As Allen worked feverishly to recalibrate the global network, Harper received another urgent communication from Colonel Reed. "Harper, we're losing too many power nodes. I'm authorizing the activation of Project Mockingbird." Harper's eyes widened in recognition. The Cold War-era shortwave radio transmitters, originally designed for propaganda broadcasts, crackled to life across the globe. To everyone's surprise, the outdated technology proved remarkably effective against the Tarkalian systems, creating a backup electromagnetic interference field. In orbit, Major Hawkins approached the final phase of her mission. The massive Doomsday weapon loomed before her, its hull glowing ominously as it prepared to fire. "This is Shooting Star," Hawkins reported, her voice steady. "I've identified the exhaust port. Beginning attack run now." Harper and the entire command center held their breath as they watched Hawkins maneuver the excess, one with incredible precision. The experimental craft, a fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Tarkalian technology, danced through the debris-filled space around the massive alien ship. Hawkins' voice came through once more, tense but determined. Targeting systems locked, preparing to fire. As the excess, one lined up its shot, Admiral Zorn's Doomsday weapon began its final charging sequence. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, with Major Hawkins' next move likely to determine the outcome of the entire conflict. Harper leaned forward, his knuckles tightening as he gripped the edge of the console. The command center fell silent, all eyes fixed on the main view screen as they waited to see if humanity's high-stakes endeavor would pay off. Off! In that moment, Major Sarah Hawkins unleashed her assault on Admiral Zorn's colossal doomsday weapon. The XS, one shooting star, responded to her every command, its hybrid technology allowing her to dance through the Tarkalian defensive screen with unprecedented agility. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm, tense but focused. Initiating attack run, multiple hostiles incoming. Harper watched, heart pounding, as the experimental craft wove through a hail of energy beams and projectiles. The massive alien vessel loomed before Hawkins, its exhaust port glowing an ominous red as the weapon prepared to fire. Shooting star, this is Harper. Remember, you've got one shot at this. Make it count. Copy that, Major, Hawkins replied, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. Targeting systems locked. Firing now. A volley of specialized missiles streaked from the XS-1, their warheads packed with Dr. Allen's sonically activated nanomaterials. Harper held his breath as the projectiles raced toward their target, evading last-second defensive fire. The resulting explosion far exceeded expectations. A blinding flash engulfed the rear of the doomsday weapon, followed by a series of secondary detonations that ripped through its massive hull. Direct hit, Hawkins shouted, her elation clear even through the static-filled transmission. The doomsday weapon is breaking up. Before Harper could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. A technician called out, "Massive electromagnetic surge detected. It's off the charts." Harper's eyes widened as he realized the implications. "Hawkins, get out of there now." But it was too late. The disintegrating doomsday weapon unleashed an enormous electromagnetic pulse that washed over the battlefield. Displays flickered and died across the command center as the pulse reached Earth. In the sudden silence that followed, Harper turned to Dr. Allen. "What just happened?" Allen's face was pale as he studied the few remaining functional screens. The explosion must have triggered a cascade failure in the weapon's power core. The resulting EMP is unlike anything we've ever seen. As systems slowly came back online, reports flooded in from around the globe. The Tarkalian fleet hung motionless in orbit, their advanced technology rendered useless by the pulse. On the ground, Earth's defenders found themselves with a sudden, unexpected advantage. In the Ural Mountains, Harper's Special Forces team pressed their attack against the now vulnerable Tarkalian ground forces. Their improvised sonic weapons, simple yet effective, continued to function while the aliens' energy weapons sputtered and died. Sergeant Chen's voice came through on a backup radio channel. "Sir, the Tarkalians are in full retreat. Their armor is down, and they can't seem to coordinate their movements." Similar reports came in from other fronts. In orbit, Commander Martinez and his crew had successfully repelled the Tarkalian borders, using their knowledge of the International Space Station to outmaneuver the invaders in the zero-gravity environment. Harper's attention snapped back to the main view screen as it flickered to life, showing a field of debris where the doomsday weapon had been. His heart sank as he realized the XS-1 was nowhere to be seen. "Shooting star, come in," he called, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Major Hawkins, do you copy?" Seconds stretched into an eternity of silence. Then, miraculously, a faint transmission broke through. "This is..." "Shooting star." Hawkins' voice came through, punctuated by static. "Systems rebooting." Narrowly avoided collision with debris field. Requesting immediate extraction. A cheer went up in the command center. Colonel Reed's face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression a mixture of relief and commitment. "Harper, we've got a window of opportunity here. The Tarkalian fleet is crippled, but it won't last forever. We need to press our advantage while we can." Harper nodded, already formulating a plan. "Agreed. Sir, I'm coordinating with ground forces now to target key Tarkalian positions." As Harper issued orders, he couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. The tide had turned, but the battle was just getting started. The Tarkalians, though technologically crippled, still outnumbered Earth's forces. The coming hours would be crucial in determining the fate of both species. Outside the command center, the night sky lit up with the burning remnants of Tarkalian ships entering the atmosphere. It was a stark reminder of the destruction wrought by the conflict, but also a symbol of hope. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and, against impossible odds, had found a way to fight back. Harper turned his attention to the next phase of the battle, knowing that every decision, every order, could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. The war for Earth's survival raged on, with neither side willing to concede defeat. Harper's gaze swept across the command center, taking in the determined faces of his team. The destruction of Admiral Zorn's doomsday weapon had given them a critical edge, but he knew the fight was a long way to go. Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression a mix of urgency and determination. "Major Harper, we're initiating Operation Scrap Heap. Your team's expertise is needed on the ground." Harper nodded, already reaching for his tactical gear. "Understood. Sir, what's the target?" "A downed Tarkalian battleship in the Siberian tundra. We need you to secure it for salvage and reverse engineering." As Harper relayed the orders to his Special Forces team, reports flooded in from around the globe. Earth's defenders were pressing their advantage against the disoriented Tarkalian fleet, but pockets of resistance remained. In orbit, Major Sarah Hawkins guided her damaged excess, one shooting star, towards the International Space Station. The experimental craft's hull bore the scars of its close encounter with the exploding doomsday weapon. "IS, this is Shooting Star," Hawkins called out, her voice strained. "Requesting emergency docking clearance." Commander John Martinez's reply came swiftly. "Copy that, Shooting Star. We're ready to receive you. Docking Bay 3 is prepped and waiting." As Hawkins maneuvered her craft into position, Martinez turned to his crew. "All right, people, we've got work to do. I want every available hand ready to assist with repairs. We're dealing with hybrid technology here, so think outside the box." Back on Earth, Harper and his team boarded a high-speed transport bound for Siberia. The vast, snow-covered landscape stretched out beneath them as they approached the crash site. Intel reports a group of Tarkalian survivors have set up a defensive perimeter around the ship. Harper informed his team, "We'll need to breach it quickly and efficiently." Sergeant Chun, Harper's second-in-command, gestured to a row of modified snowmobiles. "Sir, Randy just delivered these. They've been equipped with sonic disruptors based on the tech we use in the Urals." Harper's eyes lit up as he inspected the vehicles. "Perfect. We'll use these to punch through their defenses." As they neared the crash site, the massive form of the Tarkalian battleship came into view. Despite its mangled hull and scattered debris field, the alien vessel remained an imposing sight. Harper signaled to his team, "Remember, our primary objective is to secure the ship for salvage. Neutralize any resistance, but prioritize capturing their tech intact." The Special Forces team fanned out, their modified snowmobiles cutting through the deep snow with ease. As they approached the Tarkalian perimeter, alien energy weapons flared to life, filling the air with sizzling bolts of plasma. "Activate sonic disruptors," Harper ordered. A wave of concentrated sound swept over the Tarkalian position. The aliens staggered, their energy weapons sputtering and dying as the sonic assault disrupted their systems. Harper's team pressed their advantage, breaching the perimeter and fighting their way towards the downed battleship. As they reached the hull, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. "Sir, the ship's internal atmosphere is toxic," Jim reported, his sensor equipment beeping urgently. "We can't enter without protection." Harper scanned the battlefield, his mind racing. His eyes fell on a group of fallen Tarkalian soldiers, their environmental suits still intact. "There's our ticket in," he said, pointing to the alien suits. "Salvage what we can. We're going in." As Harper's team prepared to infiltrate the Tarkalian vessel, events unfolded rapidly across the globe. General Zhang Wei coordinated the deployment of EMP-hardened units, striking decisive blows against scattered Tarkalian forces. At CERN, Dr. Marcus Allen's breakthrough in understanding Tarkalian power systems provided a crucial advantage. "We can disrupt their energy weapons by broadcasting specific radio frequencies," he explained to Colonel Reed. "I'm reconfiguring our shortwave transmitter network now." The tide of battle seemed to be turning in Earth's favor, but Admiral Zorn was far from defeated. From his position in high orbit, he marshaled his remaining forces for a desperate counterattack. "Deploy all ground units," Zorn commanded, his alien features contorted with willpower. "Secure strategic locations on the surface. We will not be driven from this world so easily." Tarkalian dropships began descending on major cities worldwide, disgorging troops equipped with personal shield generators and energy weapons. The sudden onslaught caught Earth's defenders off guard, threatening to undo their hard-won gains. Colonel Reed, monitoring the situation from the Lunar Command Center, made a crucial decision. "Activate Project Thunderclap," he ordered. "Target all areas with heavy Tarkalian ground presence." Across the planet, a network of stratospheric devices hummed to life. Originally designed to combat climate change, they now generated localized electromagnetic storms over Tarkalian positions. The alien shields flickered and failed, their weapons rendered useless by the electromagnetic onslaught. As Earth's forces rallied to meet this new threat, Harper and his team pressed deeper into the Tarkalian battleship. The alien vessel's corridors were a maze of unfamiliar technology and eerie, pulsating lights. "Stay alert," Harper warned, his voice muffled by the salvaged Tarkalian suit. "We don't know what kind of automated defenses might still be active." As they approached what appeared to be the ship's command center, a new threat emerged. Long-range sensors detected a massive energy buildup near Mars' orbit. Admiral Zorn, in a final audacious attempt, had ordered the construction of a makeshift superweapon from the remnants of his destroyed fleet. Colonel Reed's voice crackled over the comm, urgency evident in his tone. "All available spacecraft, launch immediately. We have to stop that weapon before it can fire." In orbit, Major Hawkins climbed back into the cockpit of her hastily repaired XS-1 Shooting Star. As she prepared to lead the assault on Zorn's new superweapon, she knew that the fate of Earth hung in the balance. The conflict had entered its most critical phase. Earth's improvised defenses were about to face their ultimate test against the desperate fury of the Tarkalian invaders. As both sides marshaled their forces for this final confrontation, the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy remained uncertain. Uncertain. Earth's defenders had gained ground, but the Tarkalian threat loomed larger than ever. Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression grim. "We detected a massive energy buildup near Mars' orbit. Zorn's constructing a makeshift superweapon from his fleet's remnants. All available spacecraft, launch immediately." Major Sarah Hawkins, her face etched with commitment, climbed back into the cockpit of the newly repaired XS-1 Shooting Star. As she initiated the pre-flight sequence, she addressed her strike team through the comm channel. "This is it, people. We're the vanguard. Our mission is clear. Neutralize that superweapon before it can fire. Let's show these aliens what Earth can do." The XS-1, flanked by a mix of military and civilian craft, rocketed into orbit. As they approached Mars, the red planet's rusty surface filled their viewports. Ahead, a defensive screen of Tarkalian ships surrounded a massive, pulsating construct. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. "Tarkalian defense screen at 2 o'clock. Engage evasive maneuvers and prepare to break through on my mark." The Earth vessels scattered, their retrofitted weapon systems powering up. Hawkins pushed the XS, one into a tight spiral, dodging a barrage of alien energy bolts. She locked onto a Tarkalian frigate and fired, her modified railgun tearing through the alien ship's hull. Now, push through their lines. Hawkins ordered. The Earth fleet surged forward, exploiting the gap created by the destroyed frigate. Explosions blossomed in the void as the two forces clashed. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen stood before a bank of monitors at CERN. Technicians scrambled around him, making final adjustments to a complex array of equipment. Project Blackout is online, Allen announced, his fingers flying over a control panel. Initiating electromagnetic pulse in 3, 2, 1. A low hum filled the air as radio telescopes across the globe swiveled in unison, focusing their energy on a single point in space. The pulse streaked towards Mars, invisible but potent. In the Siberian tundra, Major Jack Harper and his team pushed deeper into the downed Tarkalian battleship. The alien corridors pulsed with an eerie blue light, casting long shadows as they moved. "Sir, over here," Sergeant Chun called out, gesturing towards a chamber filled with crystalline structures. "I think we've found their data cores." Harper approached, studying the alien technology. "Good work, Chun. Let's get these secured and transported ASAP. The intel here could be the key to stopping Zorn's weapon." As Harper's team worked to extract the data cores, a familiar voice crackled through their comms. It was Colonel Reed. "Harper, we've got a new situation. ISS has detected a Tarkalian supply convoy inbound from the outer system. We believe they're carrying components to complete Zorn's superweapon. I'm initiating Operation Slingshot to intercept." On the lunar surface, Dr. Akira Tanaka and her team of engineers swarmed over the massive form of the moon's mass driver. Originally designed for launching raw materials, it was now being hastily reconfigured into a weapon of war. Tanaka's voice was tense as she spoke into her headset. "Colonel Reed, the mass driver modifications are complete. We're loading the first salvaged Tarkalian components now." Reed's reply was swift. "Understood, Doctor. You have authorization to fire as soon as you have a clear shot at that convoy." In New York, the United Nations Security Council chamber buzzed with urgent activity. Ambassador Michael Allen stood at the podium, his voice carrying across the room. "The evidence is clear. This Tarkalian superweapon poses an existential threat, not just to one nation, but to all of humanity. I call for an immediate vote to allocate all available resources to the Earth Defense Force." The chamber erupted in a chorus of ayes as nations set aside their differences in the face of global annihilation. Back in Mars orbit, Major Hawkins' strike team pressed their attack against the Tarkalian defensive screen. The XS-1 twisted in dove, its advanced maneuverability allowing Hawkins to outflank the alien formations. "Echo Squad on me," she called out. "We're punching through their left flank." As Earth's forces battled in space, the Tarkalian superweapon began to glow with increasing intensity. Its ominous light was visible even from Earth, causing widespread panic. In the depths of the Siberian tundra, Major Harper made a startling discovery. His team had reactivated a backup command and control system within the downed Tarkalian battleship. "Colonel Reed," Harper reported, his voice urgent, "we might have a way to interface with Zorn's superweapon. If we can get this system fully operational, we could potentially disrupt it from here." As Harper's team worked feverishly to restart the alien systems, the battle for Earth's survival raged across the solar system. The ingenuity and persistence of humanity were being put to the ultimate test, with the fate of the planet hanging in the balance. The conflict had reached its most critical juncture. Earth's defenders, spread across the planet and into space, fought with everything they had against the Tarkalian threat. The next few hours would determine not just the future of Earth, but the balance of power in the galaxy itself. The Earth's defenders spread across the solar system, their drive unwavering as they fought against the Tarkalian threat. Major Sarah Hawkins gripped the controls of her XS-1 shooting star, her eyes scanning the chaotic battlefield around Mars. "Echo Squad, form up on me," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. "We're going to use Phobos as cover for a flanking maneuver." The Earth ships fell into formation behind Hawkins, their engines flaring as they accelerated towards the Martian moon. Tarkalian energy bolts sizzled past, narrowly missing the agile craft. As they swung around Phobos, the pockmarked surface of the moon filled their viewports. Hawkins spotted a gap in the Tarkalian formation and seized the opportunity. "Now, break and engage," she commanded. The Earth ships burst from behind Phobos, catching the Tarkalian vessels off guard. Hawkins' retrofitted railgun tore through an alien frigate, the explosion briefly illuminating the void of space. Back on Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen stood before a wall of monitors, his face bathed in their blue glow. He watched as the energy readings from the Tarkalian superweapon fluctuated wildly. "Project Blackout is working," he announced to the Tensern control room. "Their weapons' power levels are destabilizing." But even as Allen spoke, new data scrolled across the screens. He frowned, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "They're adapting," he muttered. "Zorn's activated some kind of backup system. We need to increase the pulse intensity." In the frozen wastes of Siberia, Major Jack Harper and his team worked feverishly within the downed Tarkalian battleship. The alien corridors hummed with energy as they attempted to reactivate the backup command system. Suddenly, a shrill alarm echoed through the ship. Sergeant Chen's eyes widened as he read the warning on his handheld scanner. "Sir, we've triggered some kind of defense mechanism," he shouted. "The ship's flooding the corridors with toxic gas." Harper's mind raced. "Everyone, seal your suits. We need to finish this before we're forced out." The team's fingers flew over alien control panels, their movements hampered by their bulky environmental suits. The air around them shimmered as the toxic gas seeped in, creating an otherworldly fog. At the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Dylan Reed received a priority transmission from the Data Core Analysis Team. "Colonel, we've found something," the lead analyst reported. "There's a vulnerability in Zorn's superweapon. During its final charging phase, it has to lower its shields to channel full power." Reed's eyes narrowed. "How long is this window?" "Seconds at most, sir." Reed nodded grimly. "Patch me through to Major Hawkins. This could be our only shot." On the lunar surface, Dr. Akira Tanaka watched as a massive form of the modified mass driver swiveled towards its target. The improvised projectiles, cobbled together from Tarkalian ship parts, gleamed under the harsh floodlights. "First volley loaded and ready," Tanaka reported. "Awaiting your command, Colonel." Reed's voice crackled over the comm. "You have a green light, Doctor. Fire at will." The mass driver hummed to life, electromagnetic coils accelerating the projectiles to incredible speeds. The makeshift ammunition streaked across space, leaving trails of superheated plasma in their wake. In Mars orbit, Major Hawkins received Reed's transmission about the superweapon's vulnerability. She quickly relayed the information to her strike team. "Listen up, people," she said, her voice tight with focus. "We've got one shot at this. When that weapon starts its final charging sequence, we hit it with everything we've got." The Earth ships maneuvered into position, taking cover behind the wreckage of destroyed Tarkalian vessels. Hawkins watched the superweapon closely, waiting for any sign of the shield dropping. Suddenly, a new signal cut across all communication channels. A gruff, alien voice spoke in halting English. "Attention, Earth forces and Admiral Zorn. This is Sub-Admiral Krell of the Tarkalian Liberation Front. We oppose this invasion and offer our assistance in destroying Zorn's weapon." A massive Tarkalian battlecruiser emerged from the asteroid belt, its weapons powered but not targeting the Earth ships. Colonel Reed's voice came through on a secure channel. Major Hawkins, what's your assessment? Can we trust them? Hawkins studied the newcomer, her mind racing through the possibilities. Sir, at this point, we need all the help we can get. I say we take the chance. As Reed contemplated this unexpected development, alarms blared across the Earth ship's sensors. The Tarkalian superweapon pulsed with energy, arcs of power dancing across its surface. It's now or never, Hawkins called out. All ships, prepare to engage. The combined forces of Earth and the Tarkalian rebels converged on Zorn's superweapon, their weapons primed and ready. As the device's shields began to flicker, signaling the start of its final charging sequence, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine the outcome of the battle and potentially reshape the future of human civilization. The combined forces of Earth and the Tarkalian rebels converged on Zorn's superweapon, their weapons primed and ready. As the device's shields began to flicker, signaling the start of its final charging sequence, Colonel Reed's voice crackled over the secure channel. Major Hawkins' new orders. Rendezvous with Sub-Admiral Krell's battlecruiser. We're accepting their offer of assistance. Hawkins' eyes narrowed as she processed the information. Understood, Sir. Echo Squad, form up on me. We're making contact with our new allies. She guided the XS-1 towards the massive Tarkalian battlecruiser, her fingers hovering over the weapon's controls. As they approached, Krell's gruff voice came through the comm once more. Earth vessel, we're lowering our aft shields. Dock in Bay 3. Hawkins maneuvered the XS-1 into the alien hangar, the difference in scale between her ship and the Tarkalian vessel now starkly apparent. As the airlock cycled, she and her team stepped out, weapons at the ready. Sub-Admiral Krell met them, his towering form dwarfing the humans. Major Hawkins, we have little time. Our tactical data on Zorn's defenses is at your disposal. Back on the lunar surface, Dr. Akira Tanaka's team worked feverishly to keep the modified mass driver operational. The improvised weapon groaned under the strain of continuous fire. Projectile 5 away, Tanaka reported, her voice tight with tension. Direct hit on a Tarkalian supply frigate. Colonel Reed's response was immediate. Excellent work, Doctor. Keep up the pressure. We need to delay that convoy as long as possible. On Earth, the battle to protect Project Blackout installations raged. General Zhang Wei's voice boomed across the battlefield as he directed his exosuit-clad troops. Gamma Team, reinforce the northern perimeter. Delta, push those Tarkalian skirmishers back from the disarray. The air crackled with energy discharges as human and alien forces clashed. Zhang's soldiers used their enhanced strength to hurl chunks of debris at the Tarkalians, forcing them to break cover. In the frozen wastes of Siberia, Major Harper and his team struggled to stay conscious as toxic gas filled the downed Tarkalian battleship. Harper's voice was muffled through his sealed helmet. Chun, status on those atmospheric suits? The sergeant's reply came through labored breaths. Ready, sir, but I can't guarantee they'll work for us. Harper nodded grimly. No choice. Everyone suit up. We're flooding this whole ship with gas. As the team donned the alien suits, Harper activated the ship's internal defenses. Noxious fumes poured from vents throughout the vessel, obscuring vision and disabling the remaining automated systems. At CERN, Dr. Marcus Allen's eyes widened as new data flowed across the screens. Colonel Reed, we have a problem. The superweapon's energy signature is becoming erratic. If Zorn activates it prematurely, we could be looking at a catastrophic overload. Reed processed the information quickly. Understood, Doctor. Major Hawkins, change of plans. Target the superweapon's power relays. We need to trigger a cascade failure before Zorn can fire. In Mars orbit, Hawkins and Krell coordinated their attack on the superweapon. The XS One and Tarkalian fighters wove through a hail of enemy fire, targeting specific weak points identified by Krell's intelligence. Earth vessels, focus fire on the starboard power coupling. Krell's voice boomed over the comm. Our heavy cruisers will draw their defensive fire. Hawkins barrel-rolled her ship, avoiding a barrage of energy bolts. Copy that, Sub-Admiral. Echo Squad, you heard the man. Let's light it up. As the battle intensified, Admiral Zorn's desperation became apparent. His voice, filled with rage, echoed across all frequencies. All ships, divert power to the weapon. Crush these vermin once and for all. Tarkalian vessels began to dim as their energy was siphoned away, leaving them vulnerable to the combined Earth-Rebel assault. On the Siberian tundra, Harper's team finally accessed the backup command system. The Major's fingers flew over alien controls as he established a link with Colonel Reed. "Sir, we're in. You should be receiving a data stream. Now." Reed's voice was filled with newfound confidence. "Excellent work, Major. This changes everything." With access to the Tarkalian battle network, Reed coordinated Earth's forces with unprecedented precision. He anticipated Zorn's maneuvers, countering them before they could fully develop. "Hawkins, Krell, enemy reinforcements incoming from your 9 o'clock. Dr. Tanaka, adjust your firing solution by 3 degrees. Take out their lead ships." The tide of battle began to shift. Earth's defenders, once on the brink of annihilation, now pressed their advantage. The Tarkalian superweapon pulsed with unstable energy, its form wavering as if struggling to maintain cohesion. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. "Colonel, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations. The weapon's becoming unstable." Reed's reply was immediate. "All forces push forward. This is our chance to end this once and for all." As the combined fleet closed in on the superweapon, Admiral Zorn's frantic orders became increasingly unhinged. The device's glow intensified, arcs of energy lashing out at friend and foe alike. The battle reached its crescendo, with Earth's fate hanging in the balance. The next few moments would determine not just the outcome of this conflict, but the future of humanity in a suddenly much larger and more dangerous galaxy. The combined forces of Earth and the Tarkalian rebels surged forward, their weapons blazing against the flickering shields of Zorn's superweapon. Major Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm, her tone sharp with urgency. "All ships form up. We're punching through their defensive line." The excess. One shooting star led the charge, weaving through a storm of energy bolts as Earth vessels and Krell's battlecruiser fell into formation. They climbed above the Martian orbital plane, while another group of Allied ships descended below it. Sub-Admiral Krell's gravelly voice echoed through the command channel. "Earth allies, our sensors detect weaknesses in Zorn's defensive screen. Concentrate fire on these coordinates." A stream of data flowed into the targeting systems of Earth ships. Hawkins quickly relayed the information to her squadron. "Echo Squad, you heard the Sub-Admiral. Let's make it count." The pincer movement caught Zorn's forces off guard. Earth ships unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy weapons, while Krell's battlecruiser fired massive volleys from its main guns. The coordinated assault tore to the Tarkalian defenses, creating gaps in their formation. On the lunar surface, Dr. Akira Tanaka's team worked feverishly to maintain the relentless assault of Operation Slingshot. The modified mass driver groaned under the strain of continuous fire, launching improvised projectiles at the Tarkalian supply convoy. "Projectile 7 away," Tanaka reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Direct hit on a Tarkalian carrier." Colonel Reed's response was immediate. "Excellent work, Doctor. Keep hammering those supply lines." The destruction of key supply ships sent shockwaves through the Tarkalian fleet. Admiral Zorn's voice, filled with rage and desperation, boomed across the enemy frequencies. "Divert all power to the weapon. Sacrifice the shields if you must. On Earth, the battle to protect Project Blackout installations reached a fever pitch. In the Atacama Desert, General Zhang Wei's exosuit-clad troops engaged in fierce close-quarters combat with Tarkalian forces attempting to breach a crucial radio telescope array. Zhang's voice rang out over the din of battle. "Push them back! We cannot lose this facility." The enhanced human soldiers used their augmented strength to hurl debris and alien weaponry back at the invaders. The air crackled with energy discharges as the two forces clashed, the harsh desert landscape becoming a futuristic battlefield. In Siberia, Major Harper and his team worked furiously within the captured Tarkalian vessel. Their fingers flew over alien controls as they exploited their access to the enemy battle network. "Colonel Reed," Harper called out, his voice tense with excitement. "We've identified a weakness in their planetary defense grid. Transmitting data now." Reed's response was swift. "Received, Major. Excellent work." He turned to his tactical officers. "Redirect our stealth drone squadron. Target those weak points in the Tarkalian network." At CERN, Dr. Marcus Allen's eyes widened as he monitored the energy readings from the Tarkalian superweapon. "Colonel, the device's output is spiking dangerously. We're approaching critical instability." Reed's voice was grim as he relayed the information to the front lines. "Major Hawkins, Sub-Admiral Krell, time is running out. That weapon needs to be neutralized immediately." In orbit around Mars, Admiral Zorn made his final, desperate move. The remaining Tarkalian ships formed a tight defensive sphere around the superweapon, their combined shields creating a formidable barrier. Hawkins quickly assessed the situation. "Krell, they're exposed. If we hit their unprotected flanks hard enough, we can break through." The Earth vessels unleashed a devastating barrage against the vulnerable Tarkalian ships. Explosions blossomed in the void of space as alien craft succumbed to the assault. Sub-Admiral Krell's battlecruiser moved into position, its advanced targeting systems locking onto the power relays, connecting Zorn's defensive sphere to the superweapon. "Major Hawkins, we are firing on the main power couplings. Prepare to exploit any weakness," Krell announced. The battlecruiser's main guns flashed, launching precision strikes against the exposed relays. Several connections shattered, sending cascades of energy rippling through the superweapon systems. Alarm klaxons blared across the Tarkalian command network as the device's power fluctuated wildly. Zorn's voice, now tinged with fear, echoed through the comms. "No! Reroute all remaining power. We cannot fail." As the battle around Mars reached its climax, a new threat emerged. The massive Tarkalian reinforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, its size dwarfing Zorn's invasion force. Colonel Reed's voice was tense but controlled as he addressed the Allied fleet. "All ships be advised. We have a new player on the field. Activating our final defensive measure now." Hidden within the asteroid belt, a network of automated defense platforms hummed to life. A mix of human and reverse-engineered Tarkalian weapons opened fire on the approaching reinforcements, creating a gauntlet of destruction that slowed their advance. In a surprising turn, a portion of the Tarkalian reinforcement fleet broke formation, moving to join Krell's forces. The rebel faction's arrival shifted the balance of power dramatically, leaving Admiral Zorn's remaining forces severely outgunned. Major Hawkins maneuvered the excess, one into position for a final attack run on the superweapon's main power core. Her voice was steady as she addressed her squadron. "This is it, people. We've got one shot at this. Let's make it count." As Earth's defenders closed in for the kill, Admiral Zorn faced an impossible choice. The Tarkalian commander's options dwindled with each passing second, the superweapon destabilizing and his forces in disarray. The battle had reached its zenith, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. As both sides braced for the final confrontation, the ingenuity and grit of humanity were put to the ultimate test against a fractured but still formidable Tarkalian invasion force. The combined forces of Earth and the Tarkalian rebels pressed their advantage, closing in on Admiral Zorn's fractured fleet. As the superweapon's energy signature grew increasingly unstable, Major Sarah Hawkins detected a sudden, alarming spike in its output. "Colonel Reed, we've got a problem," she reported, her voice tense. "The weapon's energy levels are off the charts. Something's not right." Reed's response was immediate. "Hawkins, what are you seeing?" "It's like the core is going into overdrive." "Wait." Hawkins paused, her eyes widening as she processed the data. "Sir, I think Zorn's initiated a self-destruct sequence." The news sent shockwaves through the Allied forces. Reed's mind raced as he assessed the situation. "All units, this is Colonel Reed. We have a critical situation. Admiral Zorn has activated the superweapon's self-destruct mechanism. Our priority now is to disable that device before it detonates." Sub-Admiral Krell's gravelly voice cut through the chatter. "Earth allies, I have identified a potential weakness in the self-destruct system. Transmitting data now." As the information flowed into her ship's computer, Hawkins quickly formulated a plan. "Echo Squad, form up on me. We're going to create a breach in the outer shell. Aim for these coordinates." The Earth fighters fell into formation behind the XS-1, their weapons trained on a specific point of the superweapon's hull. Hawkins gave the order, and a concentrated barrage of energy beams and missiles struck the target area. The outer shell began to buckle under the assault. On Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen's fingers flew over his keyboard as he analyzed the incoming data. His eyes lit up with sudden realization. "Colonel Reed, I've found something. The superweapon's energy core. It's vulnerable to a specific electromagnetic frequency." Reed leaned in, his interest piqued. "Can we exploit that, Doctor?" Allen nodded, already recalibrating the Project Blackout network. "If we can tune our entire system to emit this frequency, we might be able to disrupt the self-destruct sequence remotely." In Siberia, Major Jack Harper and his team worked feverishly within the captured Tarkalian vessel. Harper's voice was strained as he reported their progress. "Colonel, we've identified the command codes for the self-destruct sequence. We're attempting to hack in and override Zorn's commands now." As these efforts unfolded, the space around Mars erupted into chaos. The Tarkalian reinforcement fleet loyal to Krell engaged Zorn's remaining ships, creating a maelstrom of energy weapons and explosions. Hawkins seized the opportunity, leading her strike team towards the breach they had created in the superweapon shell. "All ships, this is Major Hawkins. We're going in. Provide cover fire, and keep those Tarkalian loyalists off our backs." The XS, one in a select group of Earth's most skilled pilots, navigated through the debris field, dodging stray weapons fire as they approached their target. Colonel Reed, coordinating the assault from the Lunar Command Center, redirected the automated defense platforms in the asteroid belt to clear a path for Hawkins' team. On the Moon, Dr. Akira Tanaka sprinted across the lunar surface towards a mast driver used in Operation Slingshot. Her voice crackled over the comm as she explained her plan. "Colonel, we're loading a special projectile containing EMP devices. If we time it right, it'll reach the superweapon just as Hawkins breaches the outer shell." Reed acknowledged the initiative. "Make it happen, Doctor. We need every advantage we can get." As the situation grew increasingly dire, the United Nations Security Council made a fateful decision. The entire modified nuclear arsenal was authorized for use, targeting key points around the superweapon to contain the potential blast. Hawkins and her team successfully breached the outer shell of the massive device, their ships navigating through the opening created by their earlier assault. As they entered the labyrinthine interior, they encountered automated defense systems and pockets of Tarkalian defenders still loyal to Zorn. Watch your six. Hawkins called out as energy bolts streaked past her cockpit. We need to reach that central control room. Move fast, but stay sharp. Back on Earth, General Zhang Wei coordinated a global effort to protect major population centers. Experimental planetary shield generators, originally designed to defend against asteroid impacts, hummed to life over key cities. Zhang's voice was steady as he addressed world leaders. The shields are our last line of defense. We pray they will not be needed, but we must be prepared for every contingency. In orbit, Sub-Admiral Krell's battlecruiser took heavy fire as it defended Earth ships from Zorn's remaining forces. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as systems failed one by one. Krell made a decision that would alter the course of the battle. All crew, abandon ship, he ordered, his voice resolute. I will pilot this vessel myself. We may yet turn the tide of this conflict. As escape pods jettisoned from the crippled battlecruiser, Krell set a collision course for the superweapon. His ship's engines flared as he accelerated towards a massive device, intent on disrupting its power core with the impact. Inside the superweapon, Hawkins and her team fought their way through winding corridors and vast chambers filled with alien technology. They could feel the device vibrating around them, its energy building towards a catastrophic release. We're almost there, Hawkins called out, checking the schematics provided by Krell. The command center should be just ahead. As they approached the final chamber, they encountered heavier resistance. Tarkalian soldiers, fiercely loyal to Zorn, unleashed a barrage of weapons fire. Hawkins and her team took cover behind alien machinery, returning fire as they inched closer to their goal. Inside the command center, Admiral Zorn activated a personal shield generator and armed himself with advanced Tarkalian weaponry. His eyes blazed with a mixture of fury and desperation as he watched the approaching Earth forces on his tactical displays. You may have won this battle, he snarled, but I will ensure that none of us survive to see the aftermath. With the fate of Earth hanging in the balance, Major Hawkins and her team prepared for the final push into the command center. The combined efforts of Earth's forces, their Tarkalian allies, and the ingenuity of human scientists had brought them to this critical juncture. As they readied themselves for the confrontation with Zorn, the superweapon continued its ominous countdown, its energy building towards a cataclysmic release that threatened not just Earth, but the entire solar system. As the tension reached its peak, Major Sarah Hawkins and her team found themselves at the threshold of the superweapon's command center. This is it, Hawkins whispered, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. On my mark, we breach. The team readied themselves, their advanced combat suits humming with energy. These reverse-engineered marvels of Tarkalian technology had already proven invaluable in their push through the superweapon's defenses. 3, 2, 1. Mark. With a synchronized burst of movement, Hawkins and her team surged forward. The door to the command center exploded inward under the combined force of their enhanced strength. As they poured into the room, they were met with a hail of energy bolts from Zorn's loyal guards. Hawkins' suit's heads-up display highlighted incoming threats, allowing her to duck and weave through the barrage with inhuman agility. She caught a glimpse of Admiral Zorn himself, his eyes wide with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "Take them down," Hawkins ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos of battle. As the firefight intensified, an unexpected tremor shook the entire structure. The walls began to emit a pulsating, otherworldly glow. "What the hell?" one of Hawkins' team members exclaimed. Back on Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen watched his monitors with growing excitement. "It's working," he shouted to Colonel Reed over the comm link. "The electromagnetic frequency is destabilizing the core." The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Tarkalian defenders faltered, their movements becoming erratic as confusion spread through their ranks. Hawkins seized the opportunity, leading her team in a relentless push towards the central control terminal. Suddenly, The lights in the command center flickered and died. For a moment, everything was plunged into darkness. When the emergency systems kicked in, bathing the room in a dim red glow, Hawkins realized that Admiral Zorn's personal shield had vanished. Harper's team must have succeeded, she thought, a grim smile playing across her lips. As if in response to her thoughts, Harper's voice crackled over the comm. Major Hawkins, we've halted the self-destruct sequence, but the core is dangerously unstable. You need to shut it down manually now. Hawkins acknowledged the transmission and signaled to her team. They formed a protective circle around her as she approached the main control terminal. Admiral Zorn, now without his shield, roared in defiance and charged towards her. The Tarkalian commander was formidable, his alien physiology granting him strength that would have overpowered an unaugmented human. But Hawkins' combat suit leveled the playing field. She met his charge head-on, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to sidestep at the last moment and use Zorn's momentum against him. The two grappled fiercely, a blur of limbs and flashing armor. Hawkins could hear the frantic communications from Colonel Reed in her earpiece, warning of the approaching nuclear strike, but she couldn't spare the focus to respond. With a powerful twist, Hawkins managed to break Zorn's grip. She followed up with a swift kick to his midsection, sending the alien commander staggering back. Not wasting a moment, she turned to the control terminal and began the shutdown sequence. Alarms blared throughout the structure as the superweapon systems began to power down. But something was wrong. The destabilized core wasn't shutting down cleanly. Instead, the energy readings were spiking erratically. Major, get out of there now. Reed's voice was urgent in her ear. The nukes are inbound, and that core is going critical. Hawkins looked around frantically, searching for an escape route. Her team was still engaged with the remaining Tarkalian guards, and the structure around them was beginning to break apart. That's when she saw it, a small, pod-like structure hidden behind a panel that had been dislodged in the fighting. A Tarkalian escape pod. Time seemed to slow as Hawkins assessed the situation. The pod was clearly designed for a single occupant. She looked at her team, still fighting bravely, then back at the pod. The weight of command had never felt heavier. As she stood there, poised on the knife edge of decision, the superweapon shuddered violently. Pieces of the ceiling began to rain down, and in the distance, Hawkins could see the bright flares of the approaching nuclear missiles. Her hand hovered over the escape pod's release mechanism as the chaos around her reached a fever pitch. The fate of her team, the Earth, and perhaps the entire solar system hung in the balance. Whatever her choice, the consequences would echo through history. With a deep breath, Major Sarah Hawkins made her decision. With lightning-fast reflexes, she turned to her team. "Everyone into the pod, now!" she barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Her team looked at her in confusion, but years of training kicked in. They moved without hesitation, trusting their commander's judgment. "But, ma'am," one of her soldiers protested, "it's designed for a single occupant." "Trust me," Hawkins said, her eyes blazing with tenacity. "Compress your suits to minimum size. Remove all non-essential gear." As her team scrambled to follow her orders, Hawkins' mind raced. The advanced compression technology in their combat suits, reverse-engineered from Tarkalian designs, would allow them to fit barely. The structure shuddered violently around them as they worked. Pieces of alien technology crashed to the floor, sparks flying from damaged systems. Hawkins kept one eye on her team and another on the approaching nuclear missiles, visible through a breach in the superweapon's hull. "Move it, people," she shouted as her team squeezed into the pod. It was a tight fit, but they managed it. Hawkins slammed the hatch shut, her hand hovering over the launch controls. "Major, what about you?" came a muffled voice from inside the pod. Hawkins shook her head, even though they couldn't see her. "I'm staying behind. There's still work to do." Before they could protest, She hit the launch button. The pod shot out of the disintegrating superweapon, carrying her team to safety. Alone in the command center, Hawkins turned her attention to the alien systems around her. She pulled out a portable quantum storage device and began a rapid download of the Tarkalian database. "This better be worth it," she muttered, watching the progress bar inch forward as the superweapon continued to break apart around her. The first wave of nuclear missiles struck. The entire structure bucked and heaved. Hawkins was thrown off her feet, barely managing to keep hold of the quantum storage device. As she scrambled back up, she saw Admiral Zorn, forgotten in the chaos, crawling towards an auxiliary control panel. With a burst of speed from her combat suit, Hawkins intercepted him, slamming him to the ground. "It's over, Zorn," she growled. "Your weapon is finished." The Tarkalian admiral snarled in defiance, but Hawkins could see the defeat in his eyes. She left him there, returning to the main terminal to complete the download. The moment it finished, Hawkins yanked the device free and began navigating through the collapsing structure. Her suit's enhanced capabilities allowed her to leap over chasms and dodge falling debris, but even with its protection, she knew she was running out of time. Outside, the space battle raged on. Sub-Admiral Krell's Loyalist fleet clashed with Zorn's remaining ships. Energy weapons lit up the void, creating a deadly light show against the backdrop of Mars. On Earth, Dr. Marcus Allen's eyes widened as he analyzed the incoming data. "Colonel Reed," he called over the comm, "the superweapon's power core, it's like nothing we've ever seen before. An entirely new form of matter." Reed's voice crackled back, tense but controlled. "Can we use it, Doctor?" "Possibly," Allen replied, his mind already racing with possibilities. "I'm formulating a theory on containment and potential applications. Sending the data to you now." In Siberia, Major Jack Harper and his team worked feverishly at their terminals. "We've got partial control of the superweapon systems," Harper reported, rerouting emergency power to the shields. "It might buy Hawkins some time." Inside the disintegrating superweapon, Hawkins felt the difference immediately. The shield flickered to life around her, deflecting a piece of debris that would have crushed her. "Thanks, Harper," she muttered, pressing on through the chaos. As she navigated the twisting corridors, the structure's layout began to shift. Spatial distortions warped the very fabric of space-time around her. Hawkins found herself running down a hallway that seemed to stretch infinitely, only to suddenly contract, nearly crushing her between its walls. "What the hell is going on?" she gasped, her suit's sensors going haywire. Back on the moon, Dr. Akira Tanaka worked frantically to recalibrate the mass driver. "Launching stabilization probes now," he reported. "They should help clear up the interference." A series of sleek Earth-Tarkalian hybrid probes shot out from the lunar surface, streaking towards a chaotic space around the superweapon. As they activated, forming a network around the distortion, communications began to clear. "Major Hawkins, do you copy?" Colonel Reed's voice came through, filled with static but audible. "I copy," Hawkins replied, her breath coming in short gasps as she navigated the increasingly unstable environment. "But I'm running out of options here, sir." As she spoke, Hawkins stumbled into a secondary control room. Her eyes lit up as she saw the auxiliary systems, still partially functional. "Wait," she said, hope rising in her voice. "I might have a way out of this yet." Her fingers flew over the alien controls, initiating a controlled overload of the remaining power systems. Around her, a force field bubble began to form, a last-ditch effort to protect her from the superweapon's final moments. Outside, the space-time distortions reached a critical point. Tarkalian ships caught in the effect began to move erratically, some slowing to a near standstill, while others accelerated to impossible speeds. On Earth, General Zhang Wei's voice boomed through global command centers. "Activate the defense grid. Prepare for debris impact." A network of energy weapons powered up across the planet's surface, ready to vaporize any fragments that made it through the atmosphere. As the superweapon entered its final phase of destruction, the space-time anomalies threatened to spread beyond the immediate area. Colonel Reed's voice cut through the chaos. "Launch the stabilizer," he ordered. "It's our last shot at containing this." From Earth's surface, a sleek device shot upwards, racing towards the heart of the distortion. As it approached, the very fabric of space-time seemed to twist and warp around it. Inside her force field bubble, Major Hawkins watched as reality itself seemed to fracture around her. The quantum storage device clutched tightly in her hand. She closed her eyes and braced for impact. The stabilizer device reached its target, activating with a burst of energy that lit up the solar system. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in perfect stillness. Then, with a silent explosion of light and energy, the superweapon's remains and the surrounding space-time distortions collapsed in on themselves. In the aftermath, as debris scattered across space and the Tarkalian fleets drifted in stunned silence, a single question hung in the minds of every human watching. What had become of Major Sarah Hawkins? Hawkins! As the blinding light faded, the answer became clear. The space around the superweapons remains churned with chaotic energy. Temporal distortions warped the fabric of reality, causing ships to phase in and out of existence. In the heart of this maelstrom, Major Sarah Hawkins found herself trapped in a bubble of warped space-time. Inside her protective field, Hawkins' perception of time fluctuated wildly. One moment, she watched debris float by in slow motion. The next, it zipped past at impossible speeds. Her combat suit systems flickered and failed, unable to cope with the extreme conditions. Hawkins gritted her teeth, fighting against the disorientation. She focused on the quantum storage device clutched tightly in her hand, a lifeline to her mission. With her free hand, she began to pry open a panel on her suit's power source. "If I can't stabilize the space around me," she muttered, "I'm as good as dead anyway." As Hawkins worked to jury-rig her suit's power source, the battle outside reached its climax. Sub-Admiral Krell's Loyalist fleet clashed with Admiral Zorn's remaining ships, their weapons fire creating a deadly light show against the backdrop of temporal chaos. Aboard the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Dylan Reed's eyes darted between holographic displays. Data from Dr. Tanaka's probe streamed in, painting a grim picture of the expanding space-time distortions. "Launch the stabilizer," Reed ordered, his voice tense. "And get me a status update on those gravity anchors." On Earth, General Zhang Wei's energy weapons grid hummed to life. Beams of concentrated energy lanced upward, vaporizing the first wave of debris entering the atmosphere. But larger fragments, composed of exotic materials from the superweapon's core, shrugged off the assault and continued their descent. "Increase power to sectors 3 through 7, Zhang commanded. "We can't let those fragments reach the surface." Back in the heart of the chaos, Hawkins' improvised modifications began to take effect. A small pocket of normalized space-time formed around her, allowing her suit systems to partially reboot. She wasted no time, limping towards a nearby Tarkalian computer terminal. Her fingers flew over the alien interface as she accessed the system. Come on," she whispered, sifting through the data. Her eyes widened as she uncovered details of Zorn's fail-safe plan and the phase-shift technology used by his loyalist ships. Suddenly, a series of violent shockwaves ripped through the battlefield. Earth's space-time stabilizer had activated, its specialized field interacting with the chaotic anomalies. Ships on both sides of the conflict went dark as the shockwaves disrupted their systems. Taking advantage of the confusion, a small group of Tarkalian vessels broke away from the main battle. Their hulls shimmered with an eerie light as they activated their experimental phase-shift technology, aiming for the collapsing superweapon. Hawkins spotted the approaching ships on her terminal. "Oh no, you don't," she growled, quickly downloading as much data as she could to her quantum storage device. As she worked, The space around her began to shift again. The stabilizer's effects were spreading, causing the temporal anomalies to recede. But in their wake, extreme gravitational fluctuations threatened to tear apart the remaining structure of the superweapon. Hawkins stumbled as the floor beneath her buckled. She could hear the ominous groaning of stress melt all around her. Time was running out. In Siberia, Major Jack Harper and his team detected a surge of encrypted transmissions from the superweapon's location. Harper's eyes narrowed as he decrypted the signal. "Colonel Reed," he called over the comm. "Zorn's awake and active. He's trying to trigger some kind of failsafe in the weapon systems." Reed's response was immediate. "Deploy the gravity anchors. We need to stabilize that area now." As Earth's gravity anchor devices streaked towards the battlefield, Dr. Marcus Allen's voice cut through the chaos. "Colonel, the stabilizer's interaction with the superweapon's core. It's creating something new, an energy signature we've never seen before." Reed's mind raced with the implications. "Can we harness it?" "Possibly," Allen replied, his voice tinged with excitement and caution. "But we need more data. If we could get a sample of that core material." Inside the disintegrating superweapon, Hawkins heard the exchange over her partially restored comm system. She looked at the quantum storage device in her hand, then at the exposed core components visible through a nearby breach in the structure. The Tarkalian phase shift ships were closing in fast. Gravity waves buffeted the remains of the superweapon, threatening to tear it apart at any moment. And somewhere in the chaos, Admiral Zorn was working to activate his failsafe plan. Hawkins took a deep breath, steeling herself for what came next. She had the intelligence Earth needed, a potential sample of the core material within reach, and a slim chance of escape. But every second she remained increased the risk of Zorn succeeding, or the phase shift ships recovering vital technology. With the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Major Sarah Hawkins prepared to make her move. The real challenge was only beginning. The real challenge was only intensifying as Hawkins assessed her precarious situation. A violent tremor shook the structure, nearly throwing Hawkins off her feet. She steadied herself against a twisted bulkhead, her eyes darting between the exposed core components and the approaching Tarkalian ships. "No time like the present," she muttered, activating her suit's enhanced mobility systems. With a burst of speed, Hawkins sprinted towards the breach, her hand outstretched towards a pulsating fragment of the core. Just as her fingers grazed its surface, a deafening screech filled the air. The superweapon's automated defense system had activated, its sensors finally catching up to the intruder in its midst. Hawkins snatched the core fragment and tucked it securely into a reinforced compartment on her suit. She spun around, facing the emerging threat, a swarm of sleek, predatory drones materializing from hidden compartments in the walls. "Reed, I've got the sample," she reported, her voice tense. "But I've got company." Outside, the battlefield transformed as Earth's gravity anchor devices arrived. Massive generators pulsed with energy, creating islands of stability in the chaotic sea of gravitational waves. The effect was immediate and jarring. Sub-Admiral Krell's loyalist ships, caught in the suddenly normalized space, lurched violently. Inertial dampeners strained to compensate, and more than a few vessels spun out of control. Admiral Zorn's phase shift-equipped ships fared no better, their advanced technology sputtering and failing as it encountered the anchor's influence. Colonel Reed's voice crackled over the comm. "All units be advised. Gravity anchors are operational. Adjust your trajectories accordingly." In Siberia, Major Harper's team worked feverishly to decrypt the latest burst of transmissions from the superweapon. Harper's eyes widened as the data willpowered itself on his screen. "Colonel," he called urgently, "Zorn's not out of the game yet. He's activating some kind of backup power source. If he succeeds—" Reed didn't need Harper to finish the thought. Understood. Hawkins, did you copy that? Inside the disintegrating structure, Hawkins was too busy to respond. The drones swarmed around her, their adaptive programming allowing them to navigate the unstable environment with ease. She ducked and weaved, using the fluctuating gravity to her advantage. A drone lunged at her, its metallic appendages morphing into razor-sharp blades. Hawkins waited until the last second, then pushed off from a floating piece of debris. The drone sailed past, impaling itself on a jagged shard of alien alloy. Two can play at that game, Hawkins grinned, grabbing the shard and wielding it like a makeshift weapon. As she fought, Hawkins noticed a pattern in the drone's movements. They weren't just attacking randomly. They were herding her towards a specific location. Following her instincts, she allowed them to guide her deeper into the superweapon's core. The passageways twisted and warped, defying normal geometry. Hawkins' suit sensors fluctuated wildly, unable to maintain a consistent reading on her surroundings. Finally, she emerged into a vast chamber, its walls lined with pulsating energy conduits. At the center stood a towering pillar of light, the backup power source. "Bingo!" Hawkins breathed, immediately grasping the gravity of the situation. She activated her comm, fighting through the interference. "Reed, I've found Zorn's failsafe. It's a secondary power core, if this thing goes critical." "We know." Reed's voice came back, laden with tension. "We're deploying countermeasures now. Can you disable it?" Hawkins approached the pillar, her suit system struggling to analyze the alien technology. "I can try, but I don't know how much time we have." As if in answer, the energy within the pillar surged. The entire chamber shuddered, and Hawkins could feel the buildup of power even through her suit's protection. Outside, the space battle reached a fever pitch. Sub-Admiral Krell's forces clashed with Zorn's loyalist ships in close-quarters combat. Energy weapons fire crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly light show against the backdrop of Mars. Earth's EMP torpedoes streaked through the chaos, their guidance systems pushing them to their limits as they navigated the debris field. Behind them, the modified gravity anchor approached, carrying its precious cargo of theoretical physics made manifest. Inside the chamber, Hawkins worked frantically to understand the backup power sources systems. The drones hovered at the periphery, their programming conflicted between defending the core and preventing its overload. Come on," Hawkins muttered, her fingers flying over the alien interface. She could feel the energy building, the very air around her becoming charged with potential. A proximity alert blared in her helmet. The phase shift ships had arrived, their hulls shimmering as they pushed through the last of the spatial distortions. Time was running out. Hawkins made a split-second decision. Instead of trying to shut down the backup power source, she began to overload it. If she could trigger a premature release of energy, it might disrupt Zorn's plans without causing the catastrophic implosion he intended. As she worked, the chamber filled with an eerie, pulsating light. The drones, sensing the imminent danger, began to swarm towards her. Hawkins gritted her teeth, her fingers never leaving the controls as she fended off the mechanical attackers with her free hand. "Almost there," she grunted, feeling the energy build up, reaching a crescendo. Suddenly, a massive tremor shook the entire structure. The EMP torpedoes had found their mark, detonating against the superweapon's outer shell. Systems throughout the installation flickered and died, including the backup power source's safeguards. Hawkins' eyes widened as she realized what was about to happen. "Reed," she shouted into her comm, "it's gonna blow. Get that containment field ready." As the backup power source began to overload, Hawkins turned and ran. The drones fell lifeless around her, victims of the electromagnetic pulse. She sprinted through the twisting corridors, the structure disintegrating behind her. Outside, the modified gravity anchor maneuvered into position. Its hull split open, revealing the hastily constructed containment field generator. As the superweapon's core began to implode, the generator sprang to life, casting a shimmering barrier of exotic energy around the collapsing structure. Hawkins emerged from the superweapon just as the containment field snapped into place. She found herself suspended in a bubble of calm amidst the chaos of the battlefield. The quantum storage device clutched tightly in one hand, the core sample secure in her suit. She watched as the fruits of two civilizations' most advanced sciences clashed before her eyes. The implosion reached its peak, concentrated energy threatening to tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. But the containment field held barely. The exotic matter created by the interaction between the stabilizer and the superweapon's core formed a perfect prison for the released energy. As the light faded and the dust settled, the battlefield fell eerily silent. Ships from both sides drifted, their systems recovering from the electromagnetic assault. In the center of it all, a glowing sphere of contained energy hung in space, a testament to the power they had all sought to control. Hawkins activated her suit's beacon, signaling for extraction. As she waited, surrounded by the aftermath of the battle, she couldn't help but wonder, what would Earth do with this new power? And how would the Tarkalians respond to this defeat? The war might be over, but Hawkins knew that the real challenges were just beginning. The struggle for the future of both their species would be fought not just with weapons, but with the very fabric of the universe itself. The glowing sphere of contained energy hung in space, a testament to the power they had all sought to control. But Hawkins knew the battle was nowhere near the end. As she waited for extraction, her suit sensors suddenly blared with warnings. "Major Hawkins, do you copy?" Colonel Reed's voice crackled through her comm. "We've got a situation developing." "I read you, Colonel," Hawkins responded, her eyes scanning the chaotic battlefield around her. "What's the status?" Reed's voice was tense. "The containment field isn't as stable as we thought. Dr. Allen's team at CERN just discovered a critical flaw in the design. It might not be powerful enough to fully neutralize the implosion." Hawkins felt her stomach drop. "What's the plan?" "We're sending in a modified gravity anchor with a new containment field generator. But it's got to get through Zorn's defensive perimeter first." As Reed spoke, Hawkins watched the battlefield transform. Sub-Admiral Krell's fleet engaged Zorn's forces in close-quarters combat, creating a maelstrom of energy weapons fire and colliding ships. The gravitational fluctuations caused by the space-time stabilizer and gravity anchors made the entire scene look like a warped, nightmarish dance. Hawkins activated her suit's enhanced visual systems, zooming in on the approaching modified gravity anchor. It moved slowly, carefully navigating the debris field of destroyed ships and superweapon fragments. Suddenly, a series of explosions rocked the remains of the superweapon. Hawkins spun around, her heart racing as she realized the source. "Reed, the backup power source is going critical." The overload triggered a cascade failure. Inside the disintegrating structure, systems began to shut down as power surged unpredictably. Hawkins watched in horror as entire sections of the weapon collapsed in on themselves. "Major, you need to get out of there now." Reed's voice was urgent. Hawkins didn't need to be told twice. She engaged her suit's propulsion system, pushing away from the collapsing superweapon. But the gravitational fluctuations made navigation nearly impossible. She found herself tumbling through space, narrowly avoiding debris and stray energy blasts from the ongoing battle. As she struggled to regain control, Hawkins caught sight of the EMP torpedoes streaking through the chaos. They weaved between destroyed ships and weapon fragments, their guidance systems straining against the intense gravitational forces. "Incoming EMP!" she shouted into her comm. "All units, brace for impact." The torpedoes detonated, releasing a wave of electromagnetic energy that washed over the battlefield. Hawkins' suit systems flickered and died, leaving her floating helplessly in the void. Around her, Both Earth and Tarkalian ships went dark, adding to the already frenzied conflict. As her systems slowly rebooted, Hawkins' comm crackled to life. She heard fragments of panic transmissions from Earth forces and Krell's fleet. Generator malfunctioning. Manual adjustment required. Zorn's flagship on collision course. Through the chaos, Hawkins spotted Captain Torres' ship maneuvering alongside the modified gravity anchor. Two tiny figures in spacesuits emerge, making their way towards the malfunctioning containment field generator. "Those crazy bastards," Hawkins muttered, watching Lieutenants Allen and Kaminsky work frantically to recalibrate the device. A new alert blared in Hawkins' helmet. She turned to see Admiral Zorn's flagship breaking away from the main battle, its engines flaring as it set a direct course for the modified gravity anchor. "Read!" Hawkins shouted. "Zorn's making a suicide run on the anchor." She watched helplessly as Sub-Admiral Krell made his move, ordering a portion of his fleet to break off and form a protective screen around the anchor. The maneuver left Krell's remaining forces exposed, but it was their best chance to ensure the containment field generator reached its target. Hawkins' suit propulsion finally came back online. She oriented herself towards the gravity anchor, knowing that every second counted. As she accelerated, she saw the two lieutenants complete their work on the generator and begin their perilous journey back to Torres' ship. The battlefield had become a swirling maelstrom of destruction. Ships collided and broke apart, adding to the expanding debris field. Energy weapons fire crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly light show against the backdrop of Mars. Hawkins pushed her suit to its limits, dodging debris and weaving through the carnage. She could see Zorn's flagship growing larger, its hull scarred and burning as it barreled towards the gravity anchor. Come on," Hawkins muttered, willing her suit to move faster. As she closed the distance, Hawkins realized she had a choice to make. She could attempt to intercept Zorn's ship, potentially sacrificing herself to buy time for the containment field generator. Or she could focus on reaching the anchor, hoping to assist with any last-minute adjustments. Time seemed to slow as Hawkins weighed her options. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and her decision in the next few seconds could tip the scales. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what came next. With stubborn persistence, Hawkins made her choice. She adjusted her trajectory, pushing her suit beyond its safe limits. The battlefield blurred around her as she raced against time, knowing that the outcome of this high-stakes endeavor would reshape the future of both Earth and the Tarkalian civilization. Empire, with a burst of acceleration, she angled her trajectory towards the modified gravity anchor. As Hawkins closed in on her target, she witnessed Captain Torres' ship executing a precise maneuver alongside the anchor. Through her suit's enhanced visual systems, she spotted two figures in spacesuits emerging from Torres' vessel, Lieutenants Allen and Kaminsky. "Torres, what's the situation?" Hawkins called over the comm. "Allen and Kaminsky are recalibrating the containment field generator," Torres responded, his voice tense. "The original design had a critical flaw. They're working to implement Dr. Allen's new specifications." Hawkins watched as the two lieutenants battled against the intense gravitational fluctuations, their tethers straining against the chaotic forces surrounding them. Despite the perilous conditions, they worked with focused dedication, their hands moving deftly over the generator's controls. Suddenly, Hawkins' suit sensors blared with new warnings. She spun around to see Admiral Zorn's flagship breaking away from the main battle, its engines flaring brightly as it set a direct course for the modified gravity anchor. "Torres, Zorn's making a suicide run on the anchor," Hawkins shouted. Before Torres could respond, Sub-Admiral Krell's voice cut through the comm channel. "All available ships, form a defensive screen around the anchor. We must protect that generator at all costs." Hawkins watched as a portion of Krell's fleet broke formation, moving to intercept Zorn's approaching flagship. The space between the two forces quickly became a maelstrom of energy weapons fire and colliding ships. With the immediate threat to the anchor temporarily held at bay, Hawkins turned her attention back to the collapsing superweapon. Her suit sensors were going haywire, detecting massive energy spikes and structural failures throughout the massive construct. "I need to get inside," Hawkins muttered to herself. "There might be something we can use to stabilize the core." Pushing her suit's propulsion system to its limits, Hawkins navigated through the debris field surrounding the superweapon. As she approached, a massive tremor shook the structure, causing entire sections to break apart and drift into space. Hawkins found an opening in the superweapon's hull and maneuvered inside. The interior was a maze of twisting corridors and chambers, many of them already compromised by the ongoing implosion. She moved quickly, her combat training kicking in as she dodged falling debris and arcing energy discharges. As she rounded a corner, Hawkins' eyes widened in surprise. Before her stood a Tarkalian emergency escape pod, its sleek design a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding it. "This could work," Hawkins said, approaching the pod. She quickly assessed its systems, noting the alien interface designed for Tarkalian physiology. Without hesitation, she connected her suit's computer to the pod's controls, her fingers flying over the holographic display as she worked to override the alien technology. Outside the superweapon, the battle raged on. Captain Torres watched anxiously as Lieutenants Allen and Kaminsky continued their work on the containment field generator. The two men moved with practiced efficiency, but the unstable gravitational forces threatened to tear them away from the anchor at any moment. "How much longer?" Torres asked over the comm. "Almost there, Captain," Allen responded, his voice strained. "Just a few more adjustments." Suddenly, Torres' ship rocked violently as an EMP wave washed over the battlefield. Systems flickered and died across both Earth and Tarkalian vessels, adding to the already frenzied conflict. As Torres worked to reboot his ship's critical systems, a transmission from Earth broke through the static. "This is General Zhang Wei to all Earth forces," the voice crackled. "We've made a breakthrough. The radiation emitted by the exotic material fragments can be modulated to create a localized stabilizing field. Colonel Reed is transmitting the frequency now." Torres' mind raced as he processed this new information. With his ship's main system still offline, he made a split-second decision. "Alan Kaminsky," he called out, "adjust the containment field generator to broadcast on the frequency Earth just sent. It should create a stabilizing bubble around the anchor." The two lieutenants acknowledged the order and set to work, their movements becoming more stable as the modulated frequency took effect, creating a pocket of relative calm around the gravity anchor. Inside the superweapon, Hawkins had successfully adapted the Tarkalian escape pod to accommodate her human form. As she strapped herself in, the structure around her groaned ominously. "Time to go," she muttered, activating the launch sequence. The pod shot out of the disintegrating superweapon, immediately caught in the turbulent energy corridors created by the weapon's collapse. Hawkins gritted her teeth, her hands gripping the alien controls as she navigated the treacherous path. Deadly energy discharges crackled around the pod, missing it by mere inches as Hawkins' piloting skills were pushed to their limits. As the pod emerged from the superweapon, Hawkins found herself in the midst of the ongoing battle. Zorn's flagship, battered but still operational, had broken through Krell's defensive screen and was bearing down on the gravity anchor. "This is Wing Commander Robbins," a new voice cut through the comm chatter. "We're moving to intercept Zorn's ship. All fighters, form up on me." Hawkins watched as a squad of Earth fighters streaked past her pod, their engines blazing. They unleashed a barrage of missiles at Zorn's flagship, striking its engines and sending it spiraling off course. With Zorn's immediate threat neutralized, Hawkins turned her attention back to the gravity anchor. The containment field had fully activated, enveloping the superweapon's unstable core in a shimmering energy barrier. But her relief was short-lived as she realized her pod was now caught in the gravitational turbulence surrounding the anchor. The pod tumbled uncontrollably, alarms blaring as it was buffeted by waves of gravitational force. Hawkins fought with the controls, but the alien technology was not responding to her commands. Just as she thought all was lost, Hawkins felt a sudden shift in the pod's momentum. Through the viewport, she saw Captain Torres' ship swooping in, its cargo bay force field extending to capture her pod mere moments before it would have been crushed by a massive piece of debris. As Hawkins' pod settled in Torres' cargo bay, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. But the moment of relief was short-lived. New alarms began to sound throughout Torres' ship. "Captain, what's happening?" Hawkins called out as she exited the pod. Torres' voice came through the ship's internal comm system, tense and focused. "The containment field has stabilized the core, but something's not right. We're detecting quantum fluctuations emanating from the contained area. They're interfering with our systems and spreading rapidly." Hawkins made her way to the bridge, her mind racing. As she arrived, she saw Torres and his crew working frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of the readings flooding their screens. "Colonel Reed is deploying unmanned probes to gather more data," Torres informed her. "But until we know more, we're flying blind in this quantum soup." Before Hawkins could respond, another transmission cut through the chaos. It was Major Harper's voice, urgent and clear despite the interference. "All units, be advised. We've decrypted Zorn's secondary failsafe. There's a hidden relay station on Mars capable of remotely triggering the superweapons core. Colonel Reed is dispatching a strike team to neutralize it." Hawkins exchanged a grim look with Torres. The immediate danger of the superweapons implosion might have been averted, but the battle was not nearly finished. As the quantum fluctuations continued to spread, enveloping an ever-widening area of space, Earth's forces found themselves facing a new and unpredictable threat. With systems unreliable and communication spotty, Hawkins knew that the next phase of this conflict would test their adaptability and resilience like never before. She turned her attention to the swirling quantum anomalies visible through the bridge viewport, her mind already formulating strategies for the challenges that lay ahead. The quantum fluctuations surrounding the contained superweapon continued to expand, creating an ever-growing sphere of unpredictable space-time distortions. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Colonel Reed," announced Torres' communications officer. Hawkins moved closer to the main view screen as Reed's face appeared, his expression a mix of concern and commitment. "Major Hawkins, Captain Torres, we're dealing with a rapidly evolving situation," Reed began without preamble. "The probes we sent into the anomaly zone are sending back some alarming data. These quantum fluctuations aren't just interfering with our systems. They're altering the fundamental laws of physics in localized areas." Hawkins felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that mean for us, sir?" "It means we're facing a threat unlike anything we've encountered before," Reed replied. "Dr. Allen and his team at CERN are already working on a solution. Quantum stabilizers designed to counteract these anomalies. But until we can deploy them, we need to keep our distance from the affected areas." As Reed spoke, Hawkins noticed a flurry of activity on the bridge. Torres was coordinating with his crew, adjusting their position to maintain a safe distance from the expanding quantum field. "There's more," Reed continued. "Major Harper's team has decrypted intel about a hidden Tarkalian relay station on Mars. It's capable of remotely triggering the superweapons core. I've dispatched Major Simmons and a strike team to neutralize it." Torres leaned in, his voice tense. "Colonel, my ship has sustained significant damage. We need to dock for repairs and medical attention." Reed nodded. "Understood, Captain. Proceed to the nearest space station. Major Hawkins, once you're patched up, I want you to oversee the coordination of our response to these quantum anomalies. We're calling it Operation Quantum Shield." "Yes, sir." Hawkins responded, her mind already racing with potential strategies. As Torres' ship maneuvered towards the space station, Hawkins watched the quantum fluctuations through the view screen. The visible distortions in space were both beautiful and terrifying, shimmering like an otherworldly aurora. The docking procedure was tense, with the ship's damaged systems making precise control difficult. As soon as they were secure, engineering teams from the station swarmed aboard, beginning the arduous process of repairing the extensive damage. Hawkins made her way to the station's medical bay, where she received treatment for minor injuries sustained during her escape from the superweapon. As she lay on the biobed, watching the medical staff work, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease about the challenges that lay ahead. Meanwhile, on the surface of Mars, Major Kyle Simmons and his strike team navigated the rust-colored landscape in their specialized vehicles. The coordinates provided by Harper's team led them to a nondescript rise in the Martian terrain. "This is it, team," Simmons said over the comm. "Scanners are picking up energy signatures consistent with Tarkalian tech. Stay alert." As they approached, the ground beneath them suddenly came to life. Hidden panels slid open, revealing a series of automated defense turrets. Energy bolts sizzled through the thin Martian atmosphere, forcing the team to take evasive action. "Evasive maneuvers," Simmons shouted, expertly piloting his vehicle behind a rocky outcropping. Johnson, Petrov, suppressing fire. "Chun, get that EMP ready." The team responded with practiced efficiency. Johnson and Petrov laid down a barrage of covering fire, their weapons modified to function in the Martian environment. Chun worked furiously to prepare the EMP device, designed to disable the Tarkalian defense systems. In Earth orbit, Sub-Admiral Krell's loyalist Tarkalian forces formed a protective cordon around the contained superweapon. Krell's flagship, its hull still bearing the scars of recent battle, moved into position. "Deploy sensor buoys at these coordinates," Krell ordered, his voice carrying the weight of recent events. "Share all data with Earth's scientific teams. We must understand these anomalies if we hope to counter them." As Krell's ships positioned the specialized sensor buoys, the quantum fluctuations seemed to pulse and shift, as if reacting to their presence. The readings they gathered were transmitted in real time to Earth's research facilities, where teams of scientists worked feverishly to make sense of the data. On Earth, the skylines of major cities were rapidly changing. Makeshift quantum stabilizers, hastily constructed based on Dr. Allen's designs, rose like monolithic antennas. General Zhang Wei coordinated the global effort from a command center in Beijing, his holographic image appearing at installation sites around the world. "We must have these stabilizers operational within the next 12 hours, Wei instructed. "The quantum disturbances are growing more intense. We cannot allow them to reach Earth's surface." As teams of engineers and technicians worked around the clock, the first of the quantum stabilizers came online. A low hum filled the air as the devices powered up, creating a barely visible field that shimmered in the atmosphere. In Siberia, Major Jack Harper's eyes widened as his systems detected a new series of encrypted transmissions. He quickly ran the signal through his decryption algorithms, his expression growing grim as the results came in. "This is Harper to Colonel Reed," he called urgently. "Sir, we're picking up transmissions from an unknown Tarkalian force within the solar system. Patterns suggest a significant contingency force." Reed's response was immediate. "Understood, Major. I'm redeploying our assets to investigate. Keep monitoring those transmissions. We need to know what we're dealing with." As Earth's forces scrambled to address these multiple threats, the contained Tarkalian superweapon continued its unpredictable behavior. Within the shimmering containment field, the exotic matter at its core underwent a series of rapid transformations, each pulse sending ripples through the surrounding quantum fluctuations. Dr. Akira Tanaka, observing this phenomenon from the Lunar Research Facility, felt a spark of inspiration. He quickly began sketching out designs on his tablet, his fingers flying across the surface as he worked out complex calculations. "This is Dr. Tanaka to Colonel Reed," he called, his voice filled with impossibly strong excitement. "Sir, I believe I've found a way to turn the situation to our advantage. The energy pulses from the contained superweapon. We might be able to harness them, use them to power a large-scale quantum stabilizer." Reed listened intently as Tanaka outlined his plan for a massive energy collection array. It was audacious, potentially dangerous, but if it worked, it could be the key to neutralizing the quantum anomalies throughout the solar system. As the various operations unfolded across Earth and space, Colonel Reed made a critical decision. He opened a channel to Major Hawkins, who had just been cleared by the medical staff on the space station. "Major, I'm putting you in charge of Operation Quantum Shield," Reed informed her. "Your experience with both the superweapon and Tarkalian tech makes you uniquely qualified to lead this effort. Coordinate all our resources: containment, anomaly neutralization, and defense against any remaining Tarkalian forces." Hawkins straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Understood. Sir, I won't let you down." As she began to assemble her team and review the incoming data, Hawkins knew that the challenges ahead would push humanity to its limits. The quantum anomalies were rewriting the rules of reality itself, and Earth's forces would need to adapt quickly to survive in this new, unpredictable cosmic landscape. The contained superweapon pulsed again, sending another wave of quantum distortions rippling through space. In response, Earth's hastily constructed defenses hummed to life. The first line of protection against a threat that defied conventional understanding. The battle for humanity's future had entered a new phase, with the very fabric of space-time as the battlefield. And Major Sarah Hawkins was determined to lead humanity's efforts in this unprecedented conflict. As soon as she was cleared by the medical staff, Hawkins wasted no time in establishing a command center aboard the space station. She commandeered a large operations room, quickly transforming it into a hub of strategic planning and coordination. "I want real-time feeds from every sector," Hawkins ordered as technicians scrambled to set up holographic displays and communication arrays. "And get me a direct link to Colonel Reed." Within minutes, the command center hummed with activity. Holographic star charts flickered to life, showing the positions of Earth's forces, Krell's loyalist Tarkalian ships, and the expanding zones of quantum instability. Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main screen. "Major, what's your status?" "Operational, sir," Hawkins replied, her eyes scanning the incoming data streams. "I'm coordinating with our fleet captains now. We're establishing a defensive perimeter around key locations and setting up monitoring stations at the edges of the anomaly zones." Reed nodded approvingly. "Good. We've just received word from Dr. Allen at CERN. The first batch of advanced quantum stabilizers is ready for deployment." Hawkins leaned forward, her interest piqued. "How soon can we get them in place?" "Transport ships are already en route to various space stations and outposts," Reed informed her. "Your priority is to oversee their installation at critical junctures where the quantum fluctuations are most intense." "Understood, sir," Hawkins acknowledged. She turned to her communications officer. "Alert all ship captains. We need to escort those transports and provide security during installation." As Hawkins coordinated the deployment of the quantum stabilizers, reports began flooding in from across the solar system. On Mars, Major Kyle Simmons and his strike team had breached the outer defenses of Admiral Zorn's hidden relay station. "This is Simmons." His voice crackled over the comm, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. "We've encountered heavy resistance, advanced combat drones, and energy shields. Standard weapons are having minimal effect." Hawkins frowned, her mind racing through potential solutions. "Major, what about electromagnetic pulse grenades? If it's Tarkalian tech, an EMP might be able to disable their systems." There was a moment of silence. Then Simmons' voice returned, tinged with renewed drive. Worth a shot. All right, team, break out the EMP grenades. Let's show these alien bastards what we're made of. As Simmons and his team pushed deeper into the Martian facility, another alert caught Hawkins' attention. Sub-Admiral Krell's face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression grim. Major Hawkins, our long-range sensors have detected an incoming fleet at the edge of the solar system, Krell reported. Tarkalian signatures. It appears to be the contingency force your intelligence uncovered. Hawkins felt a surge of adrenaline. How many ships? Initial estimates suggest a sizable force. At least equal to our combined fleet strength, Krell replied. I'm repositioning my ships to intercept, but we'll need support from your forces as well. Agreed, Hawkins nodded. I'll coordinate with Colonel Reed to redeploy our assets. We can't let them near Earth or the contained superweapon. As Hawkins began adjusting their defensive strategy, she received an incoming transmission from Dr. Akira Tanaka on the Lunar Research Facility. His face appeared, eyes bright with excitement despite the clear exhaustion etched on his features. Major, we've begun construction on the energy collection array, Tanaka reported. Earth and Tarkalian construction crews are working around the clock to assemble it in orbit around the contained superweapon. Hawkins studied the schematics that appeared alongside Tanaka's face. The array was massive, a complex web of interconnected modules designed to capture and channel the energy pulses emitted by the weapon's core. How long until it's operational? Hawkins asked. Tanaka's expression turned serious. We're pushing as hard as we can, but it's a race against time. The quantum anomalies are spreading faster than we anticipated. If we can't get the array online soon. He didn't need to finish the thought. Hawkins understood the stakes all too well. Keep me updated on your progress, Doctor. We'll do our best to buy you the time you need. As she ended the transmission, Hawkins turned her attention back to the tactical displays. The situation was growing more complex by the minute. Earth forces were spread thin, trying to defend against the incoming Tarkalian fleet while also managing the expanding quantum anomalies. A new alert caught her eye. Ships on the front lines were reporting strange occurrences. Time dilation effects, crews aging at different rates, systems operating out of sync. Some vessels were even phasing in and out of normal space-time. This is Captain Reyes of the EFS Intrepid. A harried voice came through the comm. We're experiencing severe temporal distortions. Navigation is nearly impossible. Request immediate assistance. Hawkins felt a chill run down her spine. The quantum anomalies were no longer just an abstract threat. They were actively endangering their forces. She opened a channel to Dr. Allen at CERN. Doctor, we need a solution for our ships to navigate these anomalies safely. Without it, we're flying blind out there. Allen's response was swift. We're already working on it, Major. A quantum navigation system. It's still in the prototype phase, but we can begin rolling it out to the fleet immediately. Do it, Hawkins ordered. Prioritize frontline ships and those closest to the anomaly zones. As the quantum navigation systems were distributed, Hawkins turned her attention to the incoming data from Major Jack Harper's team in Siberia. They had made a breakthrough in decoding the Tarkalian battle network, providing real-time tactical data on the contingency fleet's movements. Hawkins pored over the information, her mind working furiously to process the tactical implications. As she studied the data, a pattern began to emerge. The quantum fluctuations, seemingly random at first glance, appeared to follow a complex but predictable cycle. She quickly opened a channel to Dr. Allen. Doctor, I think I've found something. The anomalies, they're not random. There's a pattern here, a cycle we might be able to predict. Allen's eyes widened as he reviewed the data Hawkins sent. You're right. This could be a game changer. If we can forecast the anomaly's movements, we could use them to our tactical advantage. Hawkins finished. How quickly can you develop an algorithm based on this pattern? Give me a few hours, Alan replied, already turning to his team to begin work. As Hawkins waited for Alan's algorithm, reports came in from the outer solar system. The Tarkalian contingency fleet had entered the outer solar system, encountering the first line of Earth's defenses near Neptune's orbit. A fierce space battle erupted, with both sides struggling to navigate the unpredictable quantum environment. Hawkins watched the tactical displays, her heart racing as she saw Earth ships, newly equipped with the quantum navigation system, beginning to outmaneuver their Tarkalian opponents. They used the anomalies as cover, even managing to weaponize them against enemy vessels. Just as the battle intensified, Dr. Tanaka's voice came through the comm. Major, the first sections of the energy collection array are active. We're beginning to absorb and channel the energy pulses from the contained superweapon. Hawkins watched in fascination as the quantum anomalies around the array began to change, stabilizing and then intensifying in a rhythmic pattern. Her mind raced with the tactical possibilities this presented. All ships, this is Major Hawkins, she broadcast to the fleet. Synchronize your movements and attacks with the stabilization phases of the anomalies. Use these windows for precision strikes against the Tarkalian fleet. As Earth forces adapted to this new strategy, Hawkins could see the tide of battle beginning to turn. The Tarkalian contingency fleet, caught off guard by the Earth ship's ability to predict and utilize the quantum fluctuations, began to falter. But Hawkins knew the fight was far from finished. As she coordinated the ongoing battle near Neptune, supervised the deployment of quantum stabilizers, and monitored the construction of the energy collection array, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something even bigger. The quantum anomalies were rewriting the rules of reality itself, and humanity's place in the universe hung in the balance. With commitment in her eyes, Hawkins turned back to her tactical displays, ready to face whatever challenges the next phase of this unprecedented conflict would bring. With persistence in her eyes, Hawkins turned back to her tactical displays, ready to face whatever challenges the next phase of this unprecedented conflict would present. The battle near Neptune raged on, the quantum-enhanced Earth ships dancing through the anomalies with newfound grace. Hawkins watched as her strategy of synchronizing attacks with the stabilization phases proved devastatingly effective. Earth forces, bolstered by Subadmiral Krell's loyalist Tarkalian ships, steadily pushed back against the contingency fleet. All units maintain formation, Hawkins ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding on her screens. Exploit those stabilization windows. Hit them hard and fast. As Allied ships darted through the quantum fluctuations, catching Tarkalian vessels off guard, Hawkins received an urgent transmission from Mars. Major Kyle Simmons' gruff voice crackled through the comm. Command, this is Simmons. We've secured the relay station's central control room. Lieutenant Arain is shutting down the relay now. Hawkins nodded, a small victory amidst the larger conflict. Excellent work, Major. What's your status? There was a pause, filled with the sound of distant weapons fire. We've made an unexpected discovery. There's a hidden chamber here, filled with advanced Tarkalian tech. Weapons we've never seen before. Requesting instructions. Hold your position and secure that tech, Hawkins replied, her mind racing with the possibilities. I'm patching you through to Colonel Reed. As Simmons relayed his findings to Reed, Hawkins turned her attention back to the space battle. The tactical displays showed the tide turning in their favor, Earth and Tarkalian allied forces pushing the contingency fleet back. Suddenly, a new alert flashed across her screen. Dr. Akira Tanaka's face appeared, his eyes wide with excitement. Major Hawkins, the energy collection array is fully operational, he reported, his words tumbling out in a rush. We're absorbing and channeling the superweapon's energy pulses at an unprecedented rate. Hawkins watched in awe as the quantum anomalies surrounding the array began to contract and stabilize. The effect rippled outward, creating a growing sphere of relative calm in the chaotic space around Earth. "This is incredible, Doctor," Hawkins breathed. "What are the implications?" Before Tanaka could respond, another transmission cut in. Dr. Marcus Allen's face appeared alongside Tanaka's, his expression one of scarcely controlled excitement. "Major, I've just proposed a plan to Colonel Reed," Allen explained. "We can use the energy from Tanaka's array to power a network of large-scale quantum stabilizers throughout the solar system. Reed's given us the green light." Hawkins' mind raced with the tactical possibilities. "How quickly can we deploy these stabilizers?" "Engineering teams are already mobilizing," Allen replied. "We'll begin deployment within the hour." As the quantum stabilizer network expanded, Hawkins watched the anomalies throughout the solar system begin to recede. Earth and allied Tarkalian ships moved with increasing confidence, their formations tightening as communication improved. The battle near Neptune shifted dramatically. Earth forces pressed their advantage, pushing deeper into the heart of the Tarkalian contingency fleet. Amidst the chaos of coordinating the assault, Hawkins received an urgent transmission from Siberia. Major Jack Harper's face appeared on her screen, his expression grim. "Major, we've intercepted and decrypted a surge of transmissions from the contingency fleet," Harper reported. "They're preparing to deploy a new weapon system capable of generating localized quantum disturbances." Hawkins' blood ran cold. "Can you pinpoint the ships carrying these weapons?" Harper nodded, transmitting a set of coordinates. "We've identified several vessels that match the signature." Without hesitation, Hawkins opened a channel to Sub-Admiral Krell. "Sub-Admiral, I'm sending you coordinates for priority targets. We need to launch a joint operation immediately." Krell's response was swift. "Understood, Major. My battle cruisers stand ready." Hawkins turned to her communications officer. "Get me Wing Commander Robbins. We need fighter escort for this assault." As she coordinated the strike force, alarms blared across the command center. A technician called out, panic in his voice. "Major, we're detecting a massive power surge in the energy collection array." Hawkins spun to face the main display, watching in horror as the array's energy level spiked dangerously. The structure began to shake, components failing in cascading sequence. "Get me Dr. Tanaka now," Hawkins ordered, her mind racing to contain this new crisis even as the battle raged on in the outer solar system. As alarms blared and reports flooded in from all corners of the solar system, Hawkins stood at the center of the storm, coordinating Earth's response on multiple fronts. The quantum-enhanced battle near Neptune, the malfunctioning energy array, and the threat of new Tarkalian weapons all demanded her immediate attention. With every decision potentially carrying the weight of humanity's future, Hawkins steeled herself for the challenges ahead. With every decision potentially carrying the weight of humanity's future, Hawkins steeled herself for the challenges that lay before her. "Major, we need to act fast." Dr. Tanaka's voice crackled through the calm, his usual calm demeanor replaced by urgency. "The array's instability is reaching critical levels. We need to implement the modifications now, or we risk losing everything." Hawkins nodded, her mind racing. "Understood, Doctor. Begin the modifications immediately. I'll inform Colonel Reed." She opened a secure channel to Reed, quickly relaying the situation. The colonel's response was swift and decisive. "Authorize Dr. Tanaka's plan. It's risky, but it's our best shot at containing this chaos." With Reed's approval, Hawkins gave the order. "Dr. Tanaka, you have a green light. Proceed with creating the quantum bubble." As Tanaka's team began their work, Hawkins turned her attention to the battle near Neptune. The quantum-enhanced Earth ships were holding their own, but the Tarkalian contingency fleet was far from defeated. She knew they needed a decisive strike to turn the tide. Wing Commander Robbins, she called out. I need your best pilots for a critical mission. Ready and waiting, Major, Robbins responded, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. Hawkins quickly outlined her plan. We're deploying quantum torpedoes against the Tarkalian flagship. I need your fighters to provide cover and create a diversion. Understood, Major. We'll give those torpedoes the opening they need. As Robbins' fighters moved into position, Hawkins coordinated with Earth's stealth vessels, preparing them for the torpedo launch. The experimental weapons were loaded, their quantum-entangled warheads primed and ready. All units, prepare for synchronized attack, Hawkins ordered. Use the enemy's quantum disturbances as cover. Strike fast and strike hard. The stealth vessels slipped through the chaotic battlefield, their advanced cloaking systems rendering them nearly invisible amidst the quantum fluctuations. As they approached firing range, Wing Commander Robbins' fighters engaged the flagship's escort ships, drawing their attention away from the approaching threat. Torpedoes away, came the report from the lead stealth vessel. Hawkins watched the tactical display, her heart pounding as the quantum torpedoes weaved through the battlefield. Their trajectories were erratic, affected by the warped space-time fabric, making them nearly impossible to track or intercept. As the torpedoes closed in on their target, alarms blared across the command center. A technician called out, Major, we're detecting a massive energy buildup within the Tarkalian fleet. Before Hawkins could respond, Major Harper's face appeared on her screen. Major, we've intercepted critical intel. The Tarkalians are activating a hidden superweapon. It's capable of generating a quantum shockwave that could tear apart the entire system. Hawkins' mind raced, processing the new information. Harper, relay that data to Colonel Reed immediately. We need to accelerate our plans. She opened a channel to Dr. Tanaka. Doctor, we're out of time. How soon can you generate that quantum bubble? Tanaka's face was grim. We're pushing the array to its limits, Major. The modifications are underway, but we're dealing with unprecedented levels of energy. I can't guarantee dash. Do what you can, Doctor, Hawkins interrupted. We don't have a choice. As Tanaka's team worked feverishly to implement the modifications, Hawkins turned her attention back to the battle. The quantum torpedoes were seconds away from impact, while the Tarkalian superweapon continued to power up. All Earth and Allied ships, fall back to defensive positions around the inner planets, Hawkins ordered, relaying Colonel Reed's command. Prepare for potential shockwave impact. The space around Neptune erupted in a dazzling display of energy as the quantum torpedoes struck their target. The Tarkalian flagship's shields buckled under the assault, its hull breaching in multiple locations. But even as the vessel began to break apart, the superweapon within continued to charge. Energy levels are off the charts, a technician reported. The Tarkalian weapon is about to discharge. At that moment, Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the chaos. Major, we've done it. The quantum bubble is forming. Hawkins watched in awe as a shimmering field of energy began to expand outward from Earth, racing to encompass the entire solar system. But as the bubble grew, so did the instability of the energy collection array. The array can't handle this level of output, Tanaka warned. We're looking at a potential overload. Hawkins made a split-second decision. Divert all available power to the array. We need to reinforce that bubble before the Tarkalian weapon fires. As Earth's most advanced ships moved to key points along the bubble's edge, emitting stabilizing energy pulses, the Tarkalian superweapon reached full charge. A blinding surge of energy erupted from the heart of the enemy fleet, colliding with the expanding quantum field. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to warp and twist as the two immense forces clashed. Hawkins and her team watched in tense silence, knowing that the next few moments would determine the fate of Earth and all its allies. The quantum bubble continued to expand, straining against the onslaught of the Tarkalian weapon. Hawkins could only hope that humanity's ingenuity and dedication would be enough to withstand the full might of this advanced alien technology. As the shockwave raced towards the inner planets, Hawkins prepared herself for whatever came next, knowing that the true test of Earth's defenses was only just beginning. The clash between the quantum bubble and the Tarkalian shockwave illuminated the solar system in a brilliant display of energy. Hawkins watched the tactical screens, her breath caught in her throat as the two forces collided. "Status report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the display. "The bubble is holding, Major," a technician replied, his voice tense. "But the strain is enormous. I'm not sure how long it can withstand this level of assault." Hawkins nodded, her mind racing. She opened a channel to the ship's position along the bubble's edge. "All vessels, initiate stabilization protocol Alpha. Emit energy pulses at the designated frequencies." As the Earth ships complied, Hawkins observed the effect on the tactical display. The quantum bubble structure began to shift, forming a complex lattice pattern that strengthened its integrity against the Tarkalian onslaught. "Dr. Tanaka," Hawkins called out, "what's the status of the energy collection array?" Tanaka's face appeared on her screen, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We're pushing it to the limit, Major, but I have an idea that might turn the tide." As Tanaka explained his plan, Hawkins felt a glimmer of hope. "Do it, Doctor. We're running out of options." On Tanaka's command, the energy collection array surged with power. Localized quantum singularities began to form at key points along the bubble's surface, acting as energy sinks to absorb and dissipate the Tarkalian shockwave. The effect was immediate. The strain on the quantum bubble eased, and the Tarkalian weapon's energy began to wane. Amidst the chaos, a new alert caught Hawkins' attention. The quantum torpedoes launched earlier had finally reached their target. She watched as two of the weapons breached the Tarkalian flagship's defenses, tearing holes in space-time that began to rip the vessel apart from within. "Major," it was Harper's voice, cutting through the din of the command center. "We're picking up a shift in Tarkalian communications. They're signaling a retreat." Hawkins allowed herself a small smile. "Relay that information to Colonel Reed immediately. Tell him to press our advantage." As she issued orders to pursue the retreating Tarkalian fleet, another transmission came through. It was Major Simmons, his voice crackling with interference. "Major Hawkins, we've successfully commandeered the Tarkalian scout ship. Lieutenant Arain has made a critical discovery. The ship's computer contains valuable data on their quantum technology. We're transmitting the information now." "Excellent work, Major," Hawkins replied. "Get that data to Dr. Allen at CERN as quickly as possible." With the immediate threat subsiding, Hawkins turned her attention to the solar system-wide quantum bubble. The protective field had stabilized, normalizing the previously chaotic space-time fabric throughout the system. "Dr. Tanaka, begin powering down the energy collection array," she ordered. "We need to prevent any further overloads." As Tanaka's team initiated the shutdown sequence, Hawkins received a transmission from General Zhongwei on Earth. "Major, our ground-based stabilizers are now in harmony with the solar system bubble. We're reinforcing the field from the surface." Hawkins nodded, relief washing over her. "Excellent work, General. Keep those stabilizers running at full capacity." Just as it seemed they had weathered the storm, a new alert blared across the command center. Hawkins snapped to attention, her eyes widening at the information scrolling across her screen. "Major," a sensor operator called out, his voice tinged with fear. "Long-range sensors are detecting a massive energy signature approaching from beyond the solar system. It could be the main Tarkalian armada." Hawkins felt her heart race as she processed this new threat. She quickly opened a channel to Colonel Reed, outlining a daring plan that had begun to form in her mind. "Colonel," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I believe we can use the quantum bubble as more than just a shield. With careful manipulation, we could turn it into a trap for the incoming Tarkalian forces." Reed listened intently as Hawkins explained her strategy. After a moment of consideration, he gave his approval. "Make it happen, Major. Earth's fate may well rest on the success of this plan." With Reed's authorization, Hawkins sprang into action. She directed the advanced ships along the bubble's edge to begin modulating their energy pulses, creating a complex interference pattern within the quantum field. As Earth's forces regrouped and prepared for the approaching Tarkalian armada, Hawkins stood at the center of the command hub, coordinating the intricate dance of ships and energy fields that would determine the outcome of this final confrontation. The quantum bubble shimmered with potential energy, transformed from a simple defensive measure into a weapon of unimaginable power. As the first signs of the Tarkalian armada appeared on long-range sensors, Hawkins steeled herself for the battle to come, knowing that the next few hours would decide the fate of humanity and its place among the stars. Stars and forge a new era of interstellar cooperation or conflict. Hawkins turned to her command staff, her eyes burning with intensity. "Initiate Operation Quantum Net. I want every ship along the bubble's edge to begin modulating their energy pulses. We're going to turn the shield into a weapon." As her orders echoed through the command center, the advanced Earth vessels positioned around the solar system sprang into action. Their energy emitters hummed to life, sending carefully calibrated pulses rippling through the quantum field. On the main display, Hawkins watched as the bubble's structure began to shift. What was once a uniform barrier now pulsed with intricate patterns of energy, creating a complex interference web that spanned the entire solar system. "Colonel Reed, sir," Hawkins reported, her voice steady. "The quantum net is forming. We're ready to spring the trap when the Tarkalian armada arrives." Reed's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression grim but determined. "Excellent work, Major. I'm redeploying our fleet now. We need to be ready for anything." As Reed issued orders, the Earth fleet began to move. Ships of various sizes and configurations took up strategic positions throughout the solar system, forming a layered defense grid that extended from the inner planets to the outer reaches. "Major Hawkins," a voice called out. It was Dr. Allen, his image appearing on another screen. "We've made a breakthrough with the Tarkalian data. We've developed a prototype quantum shield generator that can create localized pockets of stabilized space-time." Hawkins' eyes widened at the implications. "How soon can we get those deployed?" "The first batch is already in production," Allen replied. "We're rushing them to the front lines as we speak." As the preparations continued, an alert blared through the command center. A sensor operator called out, "Major, we're detecting an anomaly in the Tarkalian formation. A small group of ships has broken away and is approaching at high speed." Hawkins frowned, her mind racing through possibilities. Before she could respond, Major Harper's face appeared on yet another screen. "Major Hawkins, we've intercepted communications from those ships. They're claiming to be a diplomatic delegation." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Hawkins exchanged a glance with Colonel Reed, who nodded grimly. "Allow them entry," Reed ordered, "but keep them under heavy escort. Major Hawkins, create a controlled access corridor through the quantum bubble." Hawkins nodded, her fingers flying over her console as she directed the ships along the bubble's edge to create a narrow pathway. The Tarkalian diplomatic vessels slipped through, immediately surrounded by a contingent of Earth's most advanced warships. As the diplomatic ships were guided to a neutral meeting point in cislunar space, Hawkins received a transmission from Major Simmons. "Major, we've successfully transferred the Tarkalian data to a secure Earth database. The scout ship is being escorted to Phobos for further study." "Good work, Major," Hawkins replied. "That data might be the key to ending this conflict." Hours passed as the negotiations unfolded. Hawkins and her team remained on high alert, monitoring every fluctuation in the quantum field and tracking the movements of the main Tarkalian armada, which had halted its advance at the edge of the solar system. Suddenly, Colonel Reed's voice cut through the tense atmosphere. "Major Hawkins, we've learned some critical information. The Tarkalians are divided. The contingency fleet and the incoming armada represent opposing factions within their society." Hawkins' mind raced with the possibilities this new information presented. "Sir, I have an idea. We can use the quantum bubble to broadcast a message to the armada. If we can exploit their political divisions, we might be able to fracture their unity." Reed considered for a moment, then nodded. "Make it happen, Major." Hawkins immediately contacted Dr. Tanaka at the Energy Collection Array. "Doctor, we need to reconfigure the system. We're going to turn the entire solar system into a communications device." As Tanaka and his team began the complex task of modulating the quantum field to carry information, Hawkins received another alert. This time, it was from the research team on Phobos. "Major," the lead scientist reported, excitement evident in his voice. "We've discovered a hidden quantum entanglement device in the Tarkalian scout ship. It's capable of instantaneous communication across vast distances." Hawkins felt a surge of hope. With this technology, they might be able to eavesdrop on the Tarkalian fleet's communications, giving them a crucial tactical advantage. As Earth's forces continued to prepare and adapt, the quantum bubble surrounding the solar system began to exhibit strange properties. Sensors detected localized areas of increased quantum flux, creating brief windows that offered glimpses of distant parts of the galaxy. Hawkins watched these phenomena with a mix of awe and trepidation. These unstable windows hinted at possibilities far beyond their current conflict, the potential for long-distance observation, or even faster-than-light travel. But for now, her focus remained on the immediate threat. As the diplomatic negotiations continued and Earth's defenses stood ready, Hawkins knew that the next few hours would be critical. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and every decision, every action, could tip the scales between peace and all-out war. She turned her attention back to the quantum bubble, watching as it shimmered with potential energy. Whatever came next, Earth would face it head-on, armed with ingenuity, commitment, and the power of the cosmos itself. As the quantum bubble shimmered with potential energy, a sudden alert blared through the command center. Dr. Allen's face appeared on the main screen, his eyes wide with excitement. "Major Hawkins, we've done it!" he exclaimed. "We've successfully reverse-engineered the Tarkalian quantum entanglement device. Our prototype Earth-made quantum communicator is operational." Hawkins leaned forward, her heart racing. "Excellent work, Doctor. What are its capabilities?" "Instantaneous, secure communication across vast distances," Allen replied, his words tumbling out in a rush. "It's a game-changer, Major. We can coordinate our entire defense network in real time, no matter the distance between units." Colonel Reed's voice cut in from another screen. "Deploy those communicators immediately, Doctor. I want every key ship and command center equipped within the hour." As Allen's team sprang into action, Hawkins turned her attention back to the quantum bubble. The intricate interference pattern they had created was holding steady, its complex energy fluctuations visible as a shimmering web across the solar system. "Major," a communications officer called out, "the message to the Tarkalian armada is ready for broadcast." Hawkins nodded, her expression grim. "Transmit it now. Let's see if we can shake up their ranks." The quantum bubble pulsed with energy as it projected the carefully crafted message towards the waiting Tarkalian fleet. For several tense moments, nothing seemed to happen. Then, long-range sensors began picking up increased energy fluctuations within the alien armada. "Major," Harper exclaimed, his eyes fixed on his display. We're detecting significant disruptions in the Tarkalian fleet formation. Several ships are breaking ranks. As they watched, gaps began to appear in the Tarkalian defensive lines. Earth's ships, now coordinated through the new quantum communication network, swiftly moved to exploit these weaknesses. Suddenly, Sub-Admiral Krell's face appeared on a nearby screen. "Colonel Reed, Major Hawkins, I have a suggestion," he said, his alien features set in a determined expression. "We can use the quantum bubble to create false sensor readings. Make portions of the Tarkalian fleet believe they're under attack from their own allies." Reed considered for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. Major Hawkins, coordinate with our ships along the bubble's edge to implement this deception." As Hawkins relayed the orders, the quantum bubble's energy patterns shifted once again. Localized distortions began to appear, creating phantom sensor readings that spread confusion through the Tarkalian ranks. Amid the chaos, a new transmission cut through the noise. "This is Captain Zarthak of the Tarkalian cruiser Novolite," a gravelly voice announced. "We represent a faction opposed to this invasion. We request asylum and safe passage through your defenses." Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main screen, his expression cautious but determined. "Major Hawkins, create a safe corridor for these dissidents, but keep them under heavy guard." As Hawkins worked to open a pathway through the quantum bubble, another alert sounded. This time, it was Major Simmons reporting from Mars. "Major, we've uncovered a hidden database on the Tarkalian scout ship," Simmons said, his voice tight with excitement. "It contains detailed information on their military capabilities and strategic plans. We're transmitting the data now." As the intelligence began flooding in, Hawkins felt a surge of hope. With this information, they could anticipate the Tarkalians' next moves and counter them effectively. Just then, Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the command center. "Major Hawkins, we've made an incredible discovery at the energy collection array. The quantum fluctuations have generated a new form of exotic matter. We're calling it quantum plasma. Its properties are revolutionary." Before Hawkins could respond, General Zhang Wei's face appeared on another screen. "I'm ordering immediate construction of containment facilities to harvest this quantum plasma," he announced. "We need to integrate this technology into our defense systems as quickly as possible." As Earth's forces scrambled to adapt to these new developments, the quantum bubble surrounding the solar system experienced a sudden surge in energy. The localized windows that had been offering glimpses of distant parts of the galaxy began to stabilize and expand. "Major," a sensor operator called out, his voice filled with awe, "these phenomena, they're starting to look like stable wormholes." Colonel Reed's eyes narrowed as he processed this information. "Major Hawkins, prepare our most advanced ships for a potential offensive. If we can use these wormholes to strike at Tarkalian supply lines and command centers outside our solar system, we might be able to end this conflict decisively." As Hawkins began relaying orders, she noticed something strange happening to the quantum bubble. The interference pattern they had created was beginning to resonate with the newly discovered quantum plasma, creating a self-sustaining energy field that seemed to strengthen their defenses while simultaneously disrupting Tarkalian technology. With Earth's newly acquired quantum technology, a fractured enemy fleet before them, and the possibility of interstellar travel within their grasp, Hawkins realized they stood on the precipice of a new era. Whatever came next would reshape not just the outcome of this conflict, but the future of humanity among the stars. As she watched Earth's ships move into position, their hulls gleaming with the iridescent sheen of quantum shielding, Hawkins steeled herself for the battle to come. The quantum communicators hummed with activity, coordinating movements across vast distances with unprecedented precision. In the space beyond the bubble, the Tarkalian armada loomed, its once unified front now fractured and uncertain. The next moves would be critical. Earth's forces were poised to strike, armed with technology they barely understood and capabilities they were only beginning to grasp. As the wormholes stabilized and the quantum plasma surged through their systems, Hawkins knew that the true test of humanity's perseverance and ingenuity was about to begin. The quantum plasma surged through their systems, its potential barely understood, but already reshaping the battlefield. As Earth's forces prepared to launch their surprise attacks through the stabilized wormholes, an alert flashed across Hawkins' console. She quickly opened the incoming transmission from Dr. Allen's team at CERN. "Major Hawkins, we've made an incredible discovery." Dr. Allen's voice crackled through the quantum communicator. "The quantum plasma exhibits unexpected properties when exposed to our conventional weaponry." Hawkins leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Explain, Doctor." "When we coat standard projectiles with a thin layer of quantum plasma, they gain the ability to phase through Tarkalian energy shields and armor," Allen replied, his excitement palpable. "It's as if the quantum properties allow our weapons to exist in multiple states simultaneously, bypassing the aliens' defenses entirely." Colonel Reed, who had been listening intently, immediately grasped the implications. "This changes everything. Major Hawkins, coordinate with our manufacturing centers. I want every bullet, missile, and artillery shell coated with quantum plasma. Prioritize our frontline forces." Hawkins nodded, her fingers flying over her console as she relayed the orders. Within minutes, factories around the globe switched to round-the-clock production. The simplicity of the upgrade allowed for rapid integration into existing Earth weapon systems without complex retraining or equipment overhauls. As the first batches of quantum-enhanced weapons reached Earth's defensive lines, Hawkins coordinated a series of precise strikes against key Tarkalian command ships. She watched the tactical displays with anxious anticipation as Earth fighters launched their attack runs. The results were immediate and devastating. Quantum-coated missiles phased effortlessly through the Tarkalian energy shields, detonating within the hulls of the alien vessels. Even simple railgun rounds, now imbued with quantum properties, tore through advanced alien armor as if it were paper. "Major," Harper called out, his voice filled with awe, "the Tarkalians are in disarray. Their ships are taking unprecedented damage from our smallest weapons platforms." As reports of Earth's newfound effectiveness spread across the battlefield, the impact on Tarkalian morale was palpable. More alien ships began to break ranks, their captains realizing the tide of battle had shifted dramatically. Sub-Admiral Krell's face appeared on a nearby screen, his alien features set in a fierce grin. "Major Hawkins, my loyalist forces are growing by the minute. The invaders now fear Earth's weapons as much as they once dismissed them." Hawkins nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "Excellent, Sub-Admiral. Continue to press your advantage. We'll coordinate our attacks to maximize the confusion in their ranks." As Earth forces pushed forward, Dr. Allen's team at CERN made another breakthrough. "Major," Allen reported, his image flickering onto the main screen, "we've developed a method to temporarily infuse human soldiers with quantum plasma. It grants them limited phasing abilities, allowing them to bypass physical barriers." Colonel Reed's eyes widened at the implications. "Doctor, begin infusing our Special Forces units immediately. Major Hawkins, prepare insertion plans for key Tarkalian installations throughout the solar system." Within hours, Earth's most elite soldiers, their bodies humming with quantum energy, began materializing inside Tarkalian strongholds. The aliens, caught completely off guard by enemies appearing within their most secure areas, found themselves fighting a war on two fronts. As the battle raged across the solar system, Major Simmons' team on Mars made a critical discovery. "Major Hawkins," Simmons reported, his voice tight with excitement, "we've uncovered a vulnerability in Tarkalian quantum technology. Their systems rely on a specific frequency of quantum entanglement. We can disrupt it with calibrated pulses of our quantum plasma." Hawkins immediately grasped the potential. Excellent work, Major. Transmit your findings to our Randy teams. We need to develop quantum disruptors as quickly as possible. General Zhang Wei oversaw the rapid deployment of these new devices across Earth's defensive grid. As they activated, entire sections of the Tarkalian fleet suddenly found themselves cut off from their command structure. The once coordinated alien armada began to fragment into isolated pockets of resistance. Taking advantage of the enemy's disarray, Colonel Reed initiated Operation Quantum Leap. Earth's most advanced ships, now equipped with wormhole navigation systems, began a series of lightning-fast strikes against Tarkalian supply lines and staging areas outside the solar system. Hawkins watched as Earth vessels disappeared into shimmering portals, emerging light years away to unleash devastating attacks on unprepared Tarkalian positions. The aliens, their supply lines severed and reinforcements cut off, found themselves fighting an increasingly desperate battle. As Earth pressed its advantage, the quantum bubble surrounding the solar system continued to evolve. The interaction between the bubble, the quantum plasma, and the ongoing space battles created a cascading effect of quantum entanglement. Earth's defensive systems began linking into a single, interconnected network with unprecedented responsiveness and coordination. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command center. Major Harper's voice cut through the chaos. "Major Hawkins, we're detecting a massive energy buildup within the core of the Tarkalian flagship. Analysis of intercepted communications indicates they're preparing to activate some kind of doomsday device." Hawkins' blood ran cold as she processed the implications. "What are we looking at, Harper?" "If our analysis is correct," Harper replied, his voice grim, "this device could collapse the entire quantum bubble. The resulting energy release would potentially destroy the entire solar system." Colonel Reed's face appeared on the main screen. His expression said in unwavering willpower, "Major Hawkins, we need to neutralize that threat immediately. Prepare all available forces for a final assault on the Tarkalian flagship. We end this now." As Hawkins began coordinating Earth's forces for the decisive battle, she knew that the next few hours would determine not just the outcome of the war, but the very survival of humanity. The quantum-enhanced weapons had given them an edge, but the Tarkalians' desperation made them more dangerous than ever. She watched as Earth's fleet, now a symphony of quantum-entangled systems and plasma-infused weaponry, moved into position for the final assault. The fate of the solar system hung in the balance, with victory and annihilation separated by the thinnest of margins. Time was running out. Hawkins took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. "All units, this is Major Hawkins. We're initiating Operation Quantum Convergence. I repeat, Operation Quantum Convergence is a go." Colonel Reed's voice crackled through the quantum communicator. "Confirmed, Major. Your strike team has a green light. Godspeed." Hawkins felt the familiar hum of the quantum plasma coursing through her body as she boarded Earth's most advanced stealth ship. Her team, a select group of Earth's finest soldiers, moved with practiced efficiency, their bodies shimmering slightly with the effects of the quantum infusion. As the ship detached from its berth, Hawkins watched the space around them erupt into chaos. Sub-Admiral Krell's loyalist fleet engaged the hostile Tarkalian forces, quantum-enhanced weapons blazing across the void. The distraction worked perfectly, drawing attention away from their approach. "Quantum phasing technology engaged," Lieutenant Arain reported from his station. "We're now undetectable to Tarkalian sensors." The ship slipped through the maelstrom of battle, passing effortlessly through energy fields and debris. As they neared the Tarkalian flagship, Hawkins felt a mix of awe and trepidation. The massive vessel loomed before them, its hull crackling with strange energies. "Prepare for infiltration," Hawkins ordered, checking her quantum-enhanced sidearm. "Remember, our primary objective is to reach the central control room and neutralize that doomsday device." The team phased through the flagship's outer hull, emerging into dimly lit corridors. Hawkins marveled at the lack of resistance. The quantum disruptors were working perfectly, jamming the ship's internal security systems. As they moved deeper into the vessel, Hawkins' communicator chirped. "Major, this is Simmons on Mars. We've detected a critical vulnerability in the flagship's quantum shielding. Sending coordinates now." Hawkins studied the data on her heads-up display. "Understood, Simmons. This could be our way in. Team, adjust course. We're heading for this access point." They encountered sporadic resistance as they neared their target, but the quantum phasing technology allowed them to outmaneuver the confused Tarkalian defenders. Hawkins watched her team phase through solid barriers, flanking and neutralizing alien soldiers with ruthless efficiency. Finally, they reached the access point Simmons had identified. Lieutenant Arain interfaced with the alien systems, his fingers dancing over holographic controls. "I'm in," he announced after a tense moment, disabling the ship's primary defenses. "Now." Alarms blared throughout the vessel as its shielding collapsed. Hawkins knew their window of opportunity was small. "Move out," she ordered. "We need to reach that control room before they can regroup." The team surged forward, their quantum-enhanced bodies allowing them to move at speeds that would have been impossible just days ago. They burst into the central control room, catching the Tarkalian High Command completely off guard. A fierce firefight erupted. Hawkins ducked behind a console as energy bolts sizzled past her head. She spotted the Tarkalian leader across the room, barking orders to his subordinates. In a split-second decision, Hawkins activated her quantum phasing to its fullest extent. She felt a strange tingling sensation as her body shifted partially out of normal space-time. With a burst of speed, she phased through the solid barrier separating her from the Tarkalian leader. The alien's eyes widened in shock as Hawkins materialized beside him. Before he could react, she fired her quantum-enhanced sidearm. The leader crumpled to the ground, and chaos erupted among the remaining Tarkalians. "The command is neutralized," Hawkins shouted to her team. "Arain, get to work on that doomsday device. The rest of you, secure the room." Arain rushed to the central console, his hands flying over the alien controls. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked to decipher and deactivate the complex system. "Major," he called out, his voice tense, "I've almost got it, but this thing is set to detonate in less than a minute." Hawkins felt her heart racing as she watched the countdown on the alien display. She opened a channel to Earth. "Dr. Allen, please tell me you have something." "We're activating the quantum stabilizers now, Major," Allen's voice replied, strained but determined. "It should neutralize the device's energy signature, but we need you to complete the deactivation sequence." Hawkins watched as a wave of quantum energy rippled through space, visible even from within the Tarkalian ship. The countdown on the alien display flickered, slowing but not stopping. "Arain now!" Hawkins shouted. The lieutenant made a final adjustment, and the display went dark. For a moment, the room was eerily silent. "Device deactivated," Arain announced, his voice barely above a whisper. A collective sigh of relief swept through the team. Hawkins allowed herself a small smile before refocusing on the task at hand. "Secure all systems and prepare for Earth forces to board. This ship is ours now." As word of the flagship's capture spread across the battlefield, the remaining Tarkalian forces seemed to lose their will to fight. Hawkins watched on the ship's monitors as entire fleets powered down their weapons, signaling their surrender. She opened a channel to Colonel Reed. "Sir, the flagship is secured, and the Tarkalian forces are surrendering en masse. I think we've won." Reed's voice came back, filled with a mixture of relief and awe. "Excellent work, Major. Prepare for boarding parties. We're about to make history." As Earth forces began to secure the captured Tarkalian vessels, Hawkins gazed out at the stars through the flagship's view screen. The quantum bubble surrounding the solar system shimmered with newfound stability, a testament to humanity's incredible leap forward. She thought about the challenges they had faced, the lives lost, and the unimaginable advancements they had made in such a short time. As she watched Earth ships and surrendered Tarkalian vessels move into formation around the flagship, Hawkins realized that this was not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new era for humanity. The quantum communicator chirped, pulling her from her thoughts. "Major Hawkins." Colonel Reed's voice came through. "Prepare for a general address. It's time to let Earth and our new allies know that the war is over." Hawkins straightened her uniform, ready to face whatever came next. The stars beckoned, filled with possibilities she could scarcely imagine. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, and now, armed with quantum technology and a newfound unity, they were ready to take their place among the stars.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.